owe you an apology, not the kind that fixes things, not the kind that makes the pain disappear, just the honest kind. I couldn't meet you where you stood. I didn't show up the way you deserved. I didn't give you my time, my focus, or the version of me you believed in. And I hate that because you didn't ask for much. You just wanted consistency. You just wanted effort. You just wanted me to stay. And the truth is, I didn't walk away because I didn't care. I walked away because I cared and still felt lost. For a moment, you broke through everything I built to protect myself. The walls were down. I was open again. I remembered how to feel without fear, how to love without keeping score. I was that version of myself I thought was gone. Then, reality got loud. Responsibilities piled up. Pressure from the future kept whispering that love wasn't something I had room for right now, that I needed to focus, that I needed to choose progress over emotion. Those thoughts didn't show up once, they stayed. They wore me down. I didn't know how to balance becoming who I needed to be and being who you needed at the same time, so instead of learning how, I ran. And I know saying sorry doesn't undo that. I know explanations don't heal wounds. I know intention doesn't erase impact. I hate that I taught you what love feels like when it leaves. I hate that I entered your life knowing I wasn't ready to stay. You didn't deserve confusion. You didn't deserve half effort. You didn't deserve to be left wondering if you were enough. You were. I just wasn't. And maybe one day when timing isn't fighting us, when growth doesn't feel like a threat to connection, I'll look back and understand why it had to end like this. But for now, all I can give you is honesty, not excuses, not promises, just this truth. I didn't fail to love because you weren't right. I failed because I wasn't ready. What hurts the most is knowing I saw the damage happening in real time and still didn't know how to stop it. I felt myself pulling away while you were still reaching out. I noticed the distance growing before I ever said a word about it, and instead of communicating the fear, the confusion, the pressure I was under, I stayed quiet. I chose silence because it was easier than admitting I didn't have the capacity to love you the way you needed. I convinced myself I was protecting you by leaving, that if I walked away early it would hurt less. But that was just another lie I told myself to make it easier to go. Because walking away doesn't soften the impact, it just changes the shape of the pain. Instead of closure, it leaves questions. Instead of understanding, it leaves self-doubt. And I hate that I played a part in that for you. You probably wondered what changed. You said something wrong. If you asked for too much, if loving me was a mistake, that's the part that keeps me up at night. Because none of this was your fault. You didn't push me away, you didn't move too fast, you didn't love wrong. You loved honestly, and I wasn't prepared to receive that. I wish I could tell you that timing is just an excuse, that if you really love someone, you make it work no matter what. But the truth is messier than that. Sometimes people are still becoming who they need to be. Sometimes they're carrying pressure they don't know how to put down. And sometimes they mistake love for something they need to run from instead of lean into. I didn't leave because you weren't enough. I left because I felt like I was failing at everything at once. And instead of asking for patience, I chose distance. I know apologies don't fix what's broken. I know understanding doesn't erase the hurt. But if there's one thing I hope you never forget, it's this. You didn't lose me because you loved too much. I lost you because I didn't know how to stay. There's a weight that comes with being the one who leaves. People think the person who walks away always has it easier. But that's not true. Walking away doesn't mean you stop feeling. It just means you carry the guilt quietly. You replay moments where you should have stayed, moments where you should have fought harder, moments where you almost turned around but didn't. I still think about the way you looked at me when you trusted me, the way you believed in something I wasn't brave enough to hold on to. That kind of trust stays with you. It doesn't disappear just because the relationship ended. It becomes a reminder of what you weren't ready to protect. I know from the outside it probably looks like I chose myself, like I chose my future over you, but it never felt like a clean choice. It felt like failing two things at once, losing you and losing the version of myself that finally felt understood. I didn't walk away empowered, I walked away conflicted. Some nights I wonder what would have happened if I stayed, if I tried harder to balance everything instead of running from it, if I learned how to grow with you instead of convincing myself I had to grow alone. But wondering doesn't change reality. It just reminds me that timing can ruin something real if you let fear lead the decision. I hope you never think I took your love lightly. I felt it, I just didn't know how to carry it without dropping everything else in my life. And instead of learning how, I chose the easier pain. The pain of absence instead of the pain of effort. If you ever question your worth because of how I left, please don't. The fact that I felt safe enough to open up, even briefly, says everything about you. The fact that I couldn't stay says everything about where I was, not who you are. There's something I never said out loud, and maybe I should have. Leaving didn't make things quieter in my head. It made them louder, because once you're gone, there's no distraction from the truth, no comfort of your presence, no reassurance to lean on when doubt creeps in, just you, alone, facing the consequences of the choice you made. I had to sit with the fact that I hurt someone who only wanted to love me right, that I walked away from something genuine because I was scared of not being enough in the future I was chasing. And fear has a way of disguising itself as logic. It tells you you're being responsible, when really you're just running. I told myself I'd come back when things settled down, when life felt more manageable, when I had my priorities straight, but life doesn't pause to give you a second chance at people. And by the time you realize what you lost, the door is usually already closed. What I regret most isn't just leaving. It's not explaining myself fully while I was still there. I didn't give you the clarity you deserved. I let you fill in the blanks on your own, and that's unfair. Silence leaves room for self-blame, and you never deserve to carry that. You probably questioned if the love was real, if the moments meant anything. They did, every single one. The meaning alone isn't always enough to keep two people together when one of them doesn't know how to stay grounded. I'm learning now that growth doesn't have to come at the cost of connection, that ambition and love aren't enemies, that sometimes the bravest thing isn't walking away, but learning how to hold two things at once. I just wish I learned that lesson sooner. The hardest part to accept is that some lessons only make sense after the damage is done. I didn't understand back then that love isn't something you pause and come back to later. When life is more convenient, love happens in the middle of the chaos and the uncertainty and the balancing act you're scared you'll fail at. And I failed because I thought I had to choose one path or the other. I thought I had to become someone first before I could love you properly. I didn't realize that loving you could have been part of becoming that person. Instead, I treated love like a distraction instead of support, like something I had to set aside instead of something that could have helped carry the weight. Now I see how unfair that was to you. You were willing to grow alongside me. You weren't asking for perfection. You were asking for presence, for effort, for honesty. And instead of trusting that, I doubted myself so much that I made the choice for both of us. There's a strange loneliness that comes with choosing growth the wrong way. You make progress, but it feels hollow. You reach milestones and realize there's no one to share them with. And that's when it hits you that success without connection can still feel empty. I don't regret wanting more out of life. I regret not knowing how to include you in that vision. I regret thinking I had to do everything alone, because strength isn't isolation. Strength is knowing when to lean on someone who's willing to stand with you. If I could say one thing without apologizing again, it would be this: don't let my fear make you afraid to love again. Don't let my timing convince you that you asked for too much. You didn't. I just wasn't ready to rise to the moment. There's a quiet regret that doesn't show up right away. It creeps in later when life slows down and you finally have time to reflect. When the noise fades and you're left alone with the truth. That regret isn't loud or dramatic, it's subtle. The realization that you let go of something real because you were afraid of not being able to handle it. I used to think walking away meant I was choosing myself. Now I understand that choosing yourself doesn't always mean leaving. Sometimes it means staying and learning how to show up better, and I didn't know how to do that back then. I thought distance would give me clarity. All it really gave me was perspective. I wish I had sooner. I see now how rare it is to find someone willing to love you while you're still figuring yourself out. Someone patient enough to stand beside you without demanding you have everything together. And I walked away from that because I didn't believe I could be both growing and loving at the same time. There are moments I want to reach out, to explain everything I didn't know how to say before, but I don't, because reopening wounds for my own peace wouldn't be fair to you. Some apologies are meant to stay unspoken, carried quietly as lessons instead of words. I hope you found someone who meets you with the same energy you gave, someone who doesn't hesitate, someone who chooses you without second guessing. And if you haven't yet, I hope you at least learned that the love you offer is rare. The way you care isn't something everyone can handle, but the right person will treasure it. As for me, I'm learning that readiness isn't something you wait for. It's something you practice, and I'm practicing now, even if it's too late for us. There's a strange kind of maturity that comes from realizing you can't undo certain things, not because you don't care enough, but because caring now would mean accepting that some doors close quietly and stay that way. And learning to respect that is part of growing up, even when it hurts. I've had to sit with the fact that love doesn't always come back around when you're finally ready. Sometimes it shows up before you know how to hold it, teaches you a lesson, and leaves. Not as punishment, but as preparation. And that's a hard truth to swallow when you realize the timing was off by just a little, but that little bit changed everything. What stays with me isn't just the regret, it's the clarity, the understanding of what I want to be different next time. I know now that I don't want to run when things get heavy. I don't want to choose distance just because I'm scared of failing. I don't want to confuse being busy with being unavailable. I don't want to leave someone guessing where they stand. You taught me that love isn't about having everything figured out. It's about choosing choosing someone even when life is uncertain, about growing with someone instead of away from them. And even though I couldn't do that with you, that lesson is etched into me now. I hope you never look back and think you weren't enough. You were more than enough. You were just early, and sometimes early still hurts like loss. There are people we don't end up with who still change the trajectory of our lives. You were one of those people for me, and even if our story didn't continue, it mattered. It always will. This is where I finally stop apologizing and start accepting. Accepting that some connections aren't meant to be fixed, revisited, or explained away. They're meant to be learned from and released. Holding on to guilt doesn't change the past, and holding on to hope doesn't rewrite the ending. All it does is keep you stuck in a moment that already passed. I didn't lose you because love wasn't real. I lost you because timing, fear, and growth didn't align. And as painful as that is to admit, it's also freeing, because it allows me to move forward without pretending I was the victim or the villain. I was just someone who didn't know how to stay yet. You don't owe me forgiveness, you don't owe me understanding, and I don't expect you to remember me kindly. All I hope is that you remember the love for what it was. Honest, real, human, even if it couldn't last. I carry this with me now. Not as regret that weighs me down, but as awareness that shapes who I become. I know how fragile connection is. I know how rare it is to find someone who sees you fully and still stays. And next time, I won't confuse love with something I need to run from. Some people are meant to be chapters, not the whole book. And even though this chapter ended before I was ready, it taught me how to write the next one with more care, wherever you are. I hope you're loved the way you tried to love me. And for the first time, I'm not saying sorry, I'm saying thank you. Every girl needs to understand this, and I mean really understand it. If you have a man in your life who is willing to do anything for you, a man who loves you unconditionally, who shows up without being asked, who takes the extra step even when he's tired, even when he's stressed, even when life isn't going his way, that is not normal. That is rare. That is something most people spend their entire lives searching for and never find. A man like that doesn't just come around every relationship. You get that man once, maybe twice in your entire lifetime if you're lucky. And if you decide to let him go, if you push him away, if you take him for granted, you didn't just lose a relationship. You fumbled something special in ways you won't fully understand until it's gone. We're living in a generation where a lot of guys are completely fed up with love. They've been lied to, cheated on, emotionally drained, and replaced like they were nothing. So now they move different. They become colder, they become nonchalant, they stop loving the way they used to because every time they did, it cost them something, not because they wanted to hurt anyone, but because that's what the world taught them to do, just to survive. So when you find a man who still loves deeply, who still cares, who still communicates instead of shutting down, who doesn't disappear when things get hard, who doesn't make you question where you stand, you need to understand how rare that really is. Some people don't know how to handle good because they've never been shown good before. Chaos feels normal to them. Peace feels boring. Stability feels unfamiliar. So when something healthy finally shows up, they self-sabotage it, they test it, they disrespect it, they assume it's replaceable. And don't get it twisted. Guys do this too. But if you have a good man, don't play with that blessing. Don't think you can treat him however you want and he'll always stay. Don't think his patience is unlimited. Don't think his heart won't eventually get tired. Pull the petty shit to the side. Learn how to grow. Learn how to communicate instead of argue. Pay attention to the small things he does because those small things are how he shows his love. Be in tune with his emotions the same way he's in tune with yours. If he listens to you, if he protects your heart, if he shows effort without excuses, if he chooses you every day even when it's not easy, don't lose him thinking you'll just find another one like him. Because men like that are rare as fuck. And once they're gone, they don't come back the same. So be good to bro, because honestly, he deserves it. Let this be a reminder for you, not tomorrow. Not when things finally get better. Right now, you are a genuinely amazing human being, even if you don't feel like it lately. And I know maybe life hit you harder than you expected. Maybe someone you trusted dimmed your light. Maybe you slowly stopped recognizing yourself because you've been in survival mode for too long. But losing your spark doesn't mean it's gone forever. It just means you've been tired. You have so much potential in this world, and I don't say that lightly. There are qualities about you that people would do anything to have. Your heart, your ability to care deeply, the way you keep showing up even when you feel empty, the way you keep going even when nobody claps for you. That strength alone says more about you than you realize. You deserve happiness, not the kind you have to chase endlessly, but the kind that feels calm. You deserve confidence, not arrogance, but confidence rooted in knowing who you are and what you bring to the table. You deserve to love yourself without feeling guilty for it, without feeling like you need permission, without feeling like you haven't earned it yet. Somewhere along the way, you might have started believing you weren't enough. Maybe someone treated you like you were replaceable. Maybe life kept taking without giving back. And slowly, you stopped being kind to yourself. You stopped celebrating your wins. You stopped acknowledging how far you've come. But look at you. You're still here, still trying, still growing. That alone deserves recognition. I need reminders like this too. We all do. Nobody walks through life feeling confident every single day. Nobody has it all figured out. The difference is learning to speak to yourself with the same compassion you give to everyone else. Learning to pause and say, I'm doing my best and that is enough for today. So if this showed up on your feed, take it as a sign. Take a breath. Think of one thing you're grateful for, one thing you like about yourself, one small win you had recently, even if it feels insignificant. Because nothing about your existence is insignificant. You matter more than you think. You bring something to this world that nobody else can replace. And even on days when you feel invisible, even on days when you doubt yourself, your presence still holds value. Don't forget that. Not today. Not ever. You know what hurts? Loving someone you know you can't have and trying to act like it doesn't destroy you a little more every day. It's a strange kind of heartbreak because they never rejected you, they never pushed you away, they never promised you anything, but your heart attached itself anyway, quietly, slowly, until suddenly everything started to revolve around them. It's like holding your breath underwater. At first it looks peaceful, but the longer you stay, the more it starts to ache in places you can't even describe. You know you should come up for air, you know staying hurts, but for some reason you'd rather drown than let go, and you start pretending you're okay with being just friends. Pretending the little moments don't matter as much as they do. Pretending your heart doesn't drop when they talk about someone else, or when they text you back just a little too casually. The kind of pain that doesn't scream, it just sits in your chest, heavy and quiet, because you can't be mad at them. They didn't choose you, but they never asked you to choose them either, and somehow that hurts even more. You start questioning yourself. Why wasn't I enough? What do they want that I don't have? What am I missing? And the truth is, nothing. There's nothing wrong with you. They just weren't the person meant to see you the way you deserved. But still, you stay. You care. You hold on to every small moment like it means something. You choose them even when you know you shouldn't, because letting go feels impossible and loving them, even silently, still feels better than pretending you don't feel anything at all. And maybe one day it won't hurt like this. Maybe one day you'll look back and realize you were never asking for too much. You were just asking the wrong person, but for now, yeah, loving someone you can't have is its own kind of heartbreak, and it changes you in ways you don't fully understand until it's finally over. One of the hardest things to accept is caring deeply about someone and realizing there's nothing you can do to make them feel the same way. You can show up, be honest, try again and again, and still end up in the same place. No matter how genuine your intentions are, no matter how real your feelings feel, they just don't see you the way you see them. And that's the kind of pain that sits quietly in your chest. You keep hoping that maybe this time will be different. Maybe if you explain yourself better, maybe if you give them more space, maybe if you stay consistent long enough, they'll finally notice. But they don't, and that doesn't mean you weren't enough. It just means their heart was never available to you in the first place. What makes it worse is how your mind tries to cope. You tell yourself there's nothing you can do, that it is what it is. But deep down, you still wish. You still imagine them choosing you one day. You still replay moments wondering if you missed a sign or said the wrong thing. You convince yourself these feelings will never fade, that you'll always feel this attached, this stuck. But that part isn't true. Feelings feel permanent when you're inside them. They feel endless when you don't see a way out. But time changes things. Distance changes things. Perspective changes things. Eventually, you start to see the situation clearly. You realize how exhausting it was to keep giving your heart to someone who never intended to hold it. Chasing someone who doesn't want you doesn't make you passionate. It makes you tired. Love is not something you have to persuade someone into. You shouldn't have to prove your worth or compete for basic interests. Real connection doesn't require convincing. It doesn't require repeated rejection. And yes, maybe she feels different. Maybe she feels rare, special, unforgettable. When you care deeply, your mind puts people on a pedestal. You start believing they're one of a kind, but they aren't the only person capable of being loved by you. They aren't the only person who could make you feel seen. They're just the one your heart focused on at this moment. When someone has shown you multiple times that they don't feel the same, that's your answer. Not an invitation to try harder, not a challenge to overcome. It's clarity, and clarity, even when it hurts, is a gift. There are so many people in this world who would appreciate your effort, your loyalty, your presence, people who wouldn't hesitate, people who wouldn't leave you guessing. You won't find them while you're holding on to someone who already said no. Letting go doesn't mean you stop caring overnight. It means you stop hurting yourself on purpose. And one day, you'll look back and realize that walking away wasn't losing someone. It was is choosing yourself. Staying doesn't feel right anymore, but the idea of never speaking again feels just as painful. And that's the part that messes with your head the most. You're stuck between two choices that both hurt, and no one really prepares you for that kind of decision. When you love someone deeply, your heart doesn't just switch off because your mind finally sees the truth. It lags behind, it holds on to memories, routines, and the version of that person who once made you feel safe. But loving someone doesn't mean you're meant to stay in a situation that's draining you. Sometimes your body already knows what your heart hasn't accepted yet. You feel tense all the time. You feel smaller. You feel tired in ways sleep can't fix. And yet you keep telling yourself to wait, to push through, to hold on just a little longer, not because things are getting better, but because letting go feels like losing a part of yourself. Here's the hard truth. Your heart isn't built to make logical decisions. It moves on emotion, attachment, and hope. That's why you can miss someone who hurt you. That's why you can crave a connection that's slowly breaking you down. And in moments like this, you can't let your emotions be the only thing guiding you. You have to choose clarity over comfort. Walking away doesn't mean the love wasn't real. It means you finally respected yourself enough to stop accepting pain as the price for connection. You're not weak for leaving. You're strong for recognizing that love shouldn't feel like constant survival. It shouldn't hurt every day. It shouldn't cost you your peace. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do isn't staying or fixing or waiting. Sometimes it's choosing yourself, even when it hurts, especially when it hurts. I saw her with him, the same guy she told me not to worry about. And in that moment, everything made sense. Not slowly, not over time, instantly, because all those times I felt something was off, all those moments I told myself I was overthinking, all those gut feelings I tried to ignore, they weren't wrong, I just didn't want them to be true. At first I just stood there, not reacting, not moving, because there's something about seeing it with your own eyes that hits different than just thinking about it. It's not a guess anymore, it's not a feeling, it's real. And in that moment, everything I tried to deny became clear. I remembered every time she said, "He's just a friend. You don't have to worry about him. It's nothing like that." And I believed her, not because I was naive, but because I trusted her. And that's what made it hurt more. Not just seeing them together, but realizing I defended something that was already falling apart. All those moments where my gut told me something was off, I ignored them because I didn't want to be that guy, the one who overthinks, the one who questions everything, the one who doesn't trust. So I stayed calm, stayed understanding, stayed loyal, while she was slowly giving that energy to someone else. And seeing them together, it wasn't even what they were doing, it was how it looked. Comfortable, natural, like something that didn't just start, like something that had been building while I was still trying to hold on to what we had. That's when it really hit me. I wasn't replaced overnight. I was replaced slowly, quietly, while I was still there. And that realization hurts in a different way, because it makes you feel like you were the only one still in it, while she was already somewhere else. For a second I wanted to confront her, ask questions, get answers, but then I realized something. I already had my answer right in front of me. No explanation could change what I just saw. And the truth is, it wasn't even about him. It was about what she chose. Because anyone can come into someone's life, but it takes a decision to give them the space that used to be yours. And she made that decision without saying it. That moment closed something in me, not out of anger, not out of hate, just clarity. Because now there was nothing left to question. Nothing left to figure out. Everything I needed to understand, I was right there. I saw her with the guy she told me not to worry about. And yeah, that hurt. But it also did something else. It removed the last bit of doubt I had, because now I know this for sure. When something feels off, it usually is. And next time, I won't ignore that feeling just to keep something going. Because the truth will always show itself. Eventually. You wanted her. There's no point pretending otherwise. You didn't just like her, you imagined a future with her. You pictured small moments turning into something bigger. Late nights, shared laughs, quiet mornings. You replayed conversations in your head, wondering what they meant, wondering what could have been. And somewhere along the way, you gave more than you should have. Not because you were weak, but because you cared deeply. And that's the part that hurts first. Losing someone you imagined a future with doesn't just sting, it shakes you. Missing someone who no longer misses you back feels heavy in a way that's hard to explain. But here's the truth that takes time to settle in. Missing someone doesn't mean you need them. And needing someone who could walk away without looking back isn't love. It's you slowly forgetting your own worth. When you pour everything into someone, you start shrinking yourself without realizing it. You start waiting for replies, waiting for effort, waiting for reassurance that should never have been questioned. You begin measuring your value by how much they choose you, and that's where you lose yourself. Not because you love too hard, but because you love someone who couldn't meet you where you stood. Think about it. Before she entered your life, you existed fully. You had goals, motivation, passions, and a sense of direction. She didn't create those things. She didn't complete you. She simply became a part of your story for a moment. And when that moment ended, it felt like something was taken from you. But nothing essential was ever removed. What you lost was attachment, not identity. You might still care. You might still think about her. That doesn't disappear overnight. Healing isn't about pretending you feel nothing. It's about understanding that love should never make you feel like you're begging to be chosen. The right person doesn't make you question your value or wonder where you stand. They don't leave you confused, waiting, or doubting yourself. So yes, it hurts, and it's okay to admit that. But remind yourself of this. You don't need someone who made you feel replaceable. You don't need someone who couldn't show up the way you did. What you need is to return to yourself, to remember who you were before you started chasing someone who couldn't give you the love you deserved. Because the right connection doesn't drain you. It meets you with clarity, effort, and consistency. And until that shows up, choosing yourself isn't a loss. It's the beginning of getting your power back. The reason why most relationships don't work is because we leave as soon as things get hard. The moment arguments start happening, the moment communication feels off, the moment it doesn't feel easy anymore, we start telling ourselves, maybe this person isn't for me. Maybe you're in that phase where you and your partner can't stop arguing. Every little thing turns into a problem. Every conversation feels tense, and instead of asking, how do we fix this? You start thinking, why is this even happening? Or maybe both of your lives are just busy right now. Work, school, stress, responsibilities. You barely have time for yourselves, let alone for each other. And instead of seeing that as a rough season, you start seeing it as a sign that the relationship is failing. But the truth is, hardship showing up in a relationship isn't a sign that you should walk away. It's not proof that love isn't there. That's just not what love actually is. You know, when you truly love someone, there are going to be uncomfortable conversations, conversations about boundaries, about things that hurt, about habits that need to change, about things you don't like and things they don't like either. You're going to hear things that don't feel good to hear, and so will they. Love isn't avoiding those moments. Love is being willing to sit in them. Love is choosing to understand instead of running away. Not always going to be sunshine and happiness. Hopefully most of the time it is, but there will be dips. Moments where you both feel misunderstood. Moments where you question everything. Moments where it feels easier to leave than to stay and try. But love is what you do in those moments. Love is choosing to fight for each other, not against each other. Love is getting through the rainstorm together instead of leaving the moment it starts pouring, because real love isn't about never struggling. It's about believing that the struggle isn't stronger than what you have. And if you can make it through the hard parts, if you can keep choosing each other even when it's uncomfortable, that's when you realize love was never about perfection. It was about commitment. I'm romantic. I believe in effort, in choosing someone daily, in love that feels intentional, not accidental, but I'm not naive anymore. I don't confuse chemistry with commitment. I don't mistake words for consistency. I don't fall in love with potential and ignore reality to protect the fantasy. That version of me is gone. Being romantic doesn't mean I overlook red flags. It doesn't mean I excuse disrespect. It doesn't mean I stay just because I feel deeply. It means I love with awareness now. I still want connection, still want intimacy, still want something real, but I'm no longer willing to sacrifice my peace just to keep a feeling alive. I know the difference now between someone who feels good and someone who is good for me. I know the difference between affection and effort, between attention and intention, and I don't chase illusions anymore. I won't romanticize someone who can't show up consistently. I won't soften the truth to protect a story I wanted to believe in. I can be tender and still have boundaries, hopeful and still realistic. Romantic doesn't mean blind. It means I care deeply but I pay attention. And this time I don't fall in love at the expense of myself. I used to think being romantic meant enduring, staying longer than I should, giving the benefit of the doubt even when doubt was all I felt, believing that love meant patience no matter the cost. That's where it went wrong. I mistook tolerance for depth. I confused hope with commitment. I kept softening my boundaries to protect a version of love that wasn't protecting me. That wasn't romance, that was self-abandonment. Being romantic doesn't mean I ignore patterns. It doesn't mean I wait for someone to become who they promise to be. It means I listen when actions contradict words. It means I leave when effort fades. It means I don't negotiate respect just to keep a connection alive. I still believe in love that's big, in feelings that are deep, in choosing someone with intention. But now, romance has standards. I won't pour into uncertainty. I won't romanticize inconsistency. I won't stay where I feel anxious and call it passion. Romantic love should feel safe enough to be honest, stable enough to be real, mutual enough to last, and if it isn't, I don't try to fix it anymore. Because I can be romantic without being reckless with my heart. Being romantic but not naive changes how you choose people from the very beginning. You don't rush connection anymore. You don't get swept up by intensity. You don't confuse attention with alignment. You let things unfold. You watch how someone shows up when it's inconvenient, how they communicate when things are unclear, how they act when they don't get their way. Because attraction is easy, consistency is not. You stop falling for the idea of someone and start paying attention to how they actually treat you. Do they follow through? Do they respect your time? Do they show curiosity about your inner world? Or just enjoy how you make them feel? Being romantic doesn't mean you stop feeling sparks. It means sparks aren't enough anymore. You want safety with the spark, effort with the chemistry, clarity with the feelings, so you slow down, not because you're scared, but because you value yourself too much to rush into something unproven. You let people reveal who they are without trying to fill in the gaps for them. And if something feels off, you don't romanticize it. You listen, because the right connection won't need you to ignore yourself to keep it alive. Being romantic without being naive means I still believe in love. I just don't chase it blindly anymore. I don't force connections. I don't convince people to choose me. I don't stay where effort feels one-sided and call it patience. I let love meet me where I am. If someone wants me, I won't have to guess. If someone cares, I won't have to ask repeatedly. If something is real, it won't require me to ignore my instincts. I still believe in late-night talks, in choosing each other, in building something meaningful, but I don't sacrifice clarity for intensity anymore. I've learned that love isn't proven by how much you're willing to endure. It's proven by how safe you feel being yourself without shrinking, performing, or waiting. So now I don't rush toward feelings just because they're strong. I let actions catch up to words. I let time reveal truth. I let consistency do the convincing. And if someone can't meet me there, I don't make it mean love is dead. I just understand that not every connection is meant to last. I can still be soft, still hopeful, still romantic. I'm just no longer willing to lose myself for the sake of a feeling. Being romantic, not naive, changed what I tolerate. I don't excuse inconsistency anymore. I don't sit with confusion and call it giving things time. I don't ignore the feeling that something is off just because I want it to work. Before, I'd stay and explain. I'd adjust. I'd wait. Now, I observe. If effort fades, I notice. If respect slips, I address it once. If nothing changes, I leave. Not angrily, not dramatically, just clearly. I don't feel guilty walking away from things that don't align anymore, because walking away isn't punishment, it's protection. I used to think romance meant holding on. Now I know it also means knowing when to let go. I still care deeply, still feel intensely, still believe in choosing someone with intention, but I won't romanticize potential at the expense of reality. I won't stay where I feel anxious, unseen, or unsure of my place. Romance without boundaries is just hope with no direction. And now, my heart has standards, not walls, standards. Being romantic and grounded makes love feel quieter than I expected. There's no chaos, no guessing games, no emotional roller coaster disguised as passion. And at first that felt strange. I was used to intensity proving something. Used to anxiety, meaning I cared. Used to confusion, keeping me invested. But that wasn't depth, that was instability. Now, romance feels calm. It looks like consistency. It sounds like clear communication. It feels like not having to overthink where I stand. There's still excitement. It's just not fueled by uncertainty. I don't need constant reassurance anymore. I don't need dramatic gestures to feel chosen. I don't need to be chased to feel wanted. Because when something is real, it doesn't keep you on edge. Being romantic doesn't mean I crave fireworks every moment. It means I value safety with the spark, peace with the passion, connection that doesn't cost me my balance. And the biggest shift, I don't mistake calm for boredom anymore. I understand now that love doesn't have to be loud to be meaningful. Sometimes the most romantic thing is feeling secure enough to just be yourself. Being romantic, not naive, changed how I communicate my needs. I don't hint anymore. I don't water things down to avoid being too much. I don't stay silent hoping someone will just figure it out. I say what I need, not aggressively, not defensively, just honestly, because needing clarity isn't pressure. Needing consistency isn't insecurity. Needing effort isn't asking for the world, it's asking for alignment. Before, I was scared that speaking up would push people away, that if I asked for more, I'd lose what I had. Now I understand something important. If honesty scares someone off, they were never meant to stay. I don't over-explain myself anymore. I don't apologize for having standards. I don't negotiate my needs to make someone comfortable. Romance doesn't mean silence. It means trusting that the right person won't feel threatened by clear communication. They won't call it drama. They won't call it too much. They won't make you feel guilty for wanting to feel secure. They'll listen, they'll respond, they'll meet you where you are. And if they don't, I don't take it personally, because being romantic, not naive, means I'd rather be understood slowly than misunderstood forever. Being romantic with boundaries filters people out quietly. You don't have to test anyone, you don't have to interrogate intentions, you don't have to force clarity. You just stay consistent with who you are, you show up honestly, you communicate clearly. You don't overgive to keep someone interested, and that alone does the work. People who only wanted attention get bored. People who thrived on ambiguity get uncomfortable. People who wanted access without effort slowly fade, and you let them, not because you stopped caring, but because you stopped chasing. Being romantic, not naive, means you don't audition for love anymore. You don't prove your worth. You don't compete for consistency. You don't bend yourself to be easier to choose. You let people meet you where you stand, and the ones who can't, they remove themselves. That used to scare you. Now it reassures you, because the right connection won't need you to lower your standards to keep it alive. It will rise to meet them. And the most romantic thing about that, you don't have to lose yourself to find love anymore. I still believe in love. That part never left. What changed is who I trust first. I believe in myself now. I trust my intuition when something feels off. I trust my boundaries when they need to be held. I trust my heart without handing it over blindly. Before, I believed love required risk at any cost, that you had to jump first and hope someone caught you. Now I know better. Real love doesn't ask you to abandon yourself. It doesn't punish you for being honest. It doesn't require you to doubt your worth to keep it alive. Being romantic, not naive, means I still dream. I just don't disappear into the dream. I don't ignore red flags to protect the fantasy. I don't silence my needs to keep someone comfortable. I don't romanticize suffering and call it devotion. I let love add to my life, not destabilize it. And the biggest shift of all, I don't fear losing love anymore the way I used to, because I know I won't lose myself trying to keep it. That confidence didn't come from love finding me. It came from me finally standing with myself. Being romantic, not naive, means I didn't lose my softness. I refined it. I still believe in love that's intentional, in effort that's mutual, in choosing someone without hesitation or games, but I no longer confuse love with endurance. I won't stay where I feel uncertain. I won't fight for clarity. I won't romanticize someone's potential while ignoring how they treat me now. Romance isn't blind faith anymore. It's awareness. It's knowing that feelings matter, but actions matter more. That chemistry is exciting, but consistency is what lasts. That love shouldn't cost you your peace, your voice, or yourself. I still want something real. I still want depth. I still want connection that feels meaningful. I just won't abandon myself to get it. If someone meets me with honesty, I open my heart. If they meet me with effort, I lean in. If they meet me halfway, I walk the rest with them. And if they don't, I don't force it. I don't chase it. I don't grieve what was never aligned. Because being romantic doesn't mean I accept less. It means I know exactly what kind of love I want, and I'm patient enough to wait for something that doesn't ask me to be smaller, quieter, or less aware. I'm still a romantic. I just finally learned how to protect my heart without closing it, and that's the difference. You're the least liked friend, and deep down you feel it. You're in the group, but somehow you're never really in it. You're always the one left out of plans, left out of conversations, left out of the moments everyone else seems to get invited to. And the worst part, you don't even need to put your phone on Do Not Disturb, because nobody's calling you anyway, nobody's texting, nobody's checking up on you, nobody's asking how your day was. You could disappear for a week and they'd only notice when they need something. You feel lonely even when you're surrounded by people who claim to be your friends. You sense the distance growing. You sense the energy changing. Everyone else gets closer to each other while you feel yourself drifting further and further away. Your confidence? Gone. It feels like you're clinging to friendships just to avoid being completely alone. Like you're forcing conversations, forcing yourself into spaces where nobody is saving a seat for you anymore. You don't get invited to the parties, the hangouts, the late night calls, not even the game nights online. You're always the afterthought, if you're even a thought at all, and it messes with your head. It makes you feel like you're begging for the bare minimum, like you're trying so hard to keep people who wouldn't even notice if you stopped trying. The hardest part about growing up is realizing how rare real friends actually are. So many people out here are fake as hell. Some people will act like they love you, like they're for you, they while secretly resenting you, competing with you, or only tolerating you because you're convenient. Friendships fade, people grow apart, grow different, grow distant. Not everything is meant to last forever, and that's okay. What's not okay is staying somewhere you feel invisible, staying somewhere you feel like you have to scream just to be heard. If people pull away, let them. If they stop making space for you, create your own. Because holding on to people who don't value you only makes you lose yourself in the process. You will find your people, your real circle, the ones who make you feel seen without trying, the ones who notice the silence in your voice, the ones who actually want you around. But before that, you've got to love yourself first. You have to be okay with your own company, so you never settle for people who treat you like you're replaceable, because no one deserves to feel like the forgotten friend. No one deserves to feel like a burden in the spaces that are supposed to feel safe. Step back from the people who keep reminding you that you don't matter to them. Let them go, and trust that the right people, the real ones, will find their way to you. In due time, you'll finally find your crowd, the one you never have to fight to be part of. They leave you on delivered all day, and then randomly hit you with a "what you doing" and "what you doing" at night. Or suddenly they respond fast, only when it's late, only when they're bored, only when there's nothing else going on in their life. Understand this, and people like that are not busy, they're not overwhelmed, they're not confused, they're choosing when you're allowed to exist to them. They talk to you when it's convenient, they reply when it benefits them, they never fight to talk to you, they never make time for you, they never communicate, they never say, "Hey, I'm busy today, but I'll text you later." And that tells you everything, because if you mattered to them, really mattered, nothing would stop them from reaching out. Not work, not stress, not distractions, not distance. And that's the truth you keep trying to avoid. They answer fast at night because they're bored. They disappear during the day because you're not a priority. They go 10, 12, 14 hours without saying a word and somehow still expect access to you when it's convenient for them. And what hurts the most is how much you excuse it. You tell yourself they're busy. You tell yourself they'll change. You tell yourself maybe tomorrow will be different. But understand this, people show you exactly who they are through their patterns. If someone leaves you on delivered every single day for weeks, for months, that is not accidental. That's intentional. At some point, you have to stop falling in love with the version of them in your head and start paying attention to the version they show you. Because if they wanted to talk to you, they would. If they cared, they'd make it obvious. If you mattered, you wouldn't be confused. So stop waiting for effort from someone who's comfortable giving you none. Believe people the first time they show you who they are, because if they wanted to, they would. You're gorgeous, but that's honestly the least interesting thing about you. Yeah, you're beautiful. Anyone with eyes can see that. You walk into a room and people notice without even trying. It's like your presence adjusts the whole atmosphere, like the energy shifts just because you showed up. But the thing is, beauty is the easiest thing to see. It takes zero effort to point out someone's face. What I see in you, that takes attention. That takes knowing you, and that's the part that makes you unforgettable. I notice the way your eyes change when you talk about something you really care about. Not just the sparkle, but the focus, the passion, the way your whole voice lifts. It's like watching a flame catch even when you're trying to hide it. Maybe you don't realize it, but that passion, that's one of the most beautiful things about you. I notice your laugh, not the polite one you use when you're trying to be quiet, but the real one. The one that takes over your whole body. The one you try to cover because you're scared it's too loud, too much. But that laugh, it's the kind that makes people laugh just hearing it. It fills the room in a way nothing else does. And then there are the moments nobody else sees. The way you fall silent when you're hurting, the way you try to hold yourself together because you don't want to bother anyone with your problems. You carry your pain like it's something you owe the world an apology for. Like you have to be strong all the time, and somehow, even in your quietest moments, you still show up for people with your full heart. That strength, it's rare. The kind of beauty you can't put makeup on, can't fake, can't recreate. But the way you care, that leaves marks on the people lucky enough to know you. Your beauty might turn heads, but your soul, the way you love, the way you give, the way you dream, that's what makes people stay. That's what makes you unforgettable. People think they know you because they see your face, but if they paid attention, really paid attention, they'd realize your looks are just the cover, not the story. You're gorgeous, yeah, but honestly, that's the least extraordinary thing about you. Your real beauty exists in the parts of you the world never sees unless they earn it, and that's the part of you I never stop being in awe of. She said she needed space, and I believed her, because when someone says that, you don't question it, you respect it, you tell yourself they're overwhelmed, they're figuring things out, they just need time to clear their head. So I gave her that. I didn't chase, I didn't pressure her, I didn't try to force conversations that she clearly wasn't ready to have. I stepped back, because in my head, that's what you do when you care about someone. You don't make things harder for them, you give them room. But what I didn't realize at the time was this: she didn't need space, she just didn't want me. At first I handled it the way you're supposed to. I gave her distance, I stopped texting first, I stopped trying to keep conversations alive. I let the silence sit, even when it didn't feel right, because I thought space meant something temporary, like a pause, like something we would come back from. But the silence started stretching longer than it should have, and instead of clarity, it just created confusion, because when someone genuinely needs space, they don't disappear without direction. They don't leave you guessing. They don't make you feel like you're suddenly a stranger. But that's exactly how it started to feel. And deep down, something didn't sit right. Not because I didn't trust her, but because the energy didn't match what she said. Then little things started adding up. Things I didn't notice right away. But once I did, I couldn't ignore them. She wasn't just taking space. She was still active, still talking, still posting, still present, just not with me. And that's when the confusion turned into something else, clarity, because space doesn't mean disappearing from one person while still being available for everything else. Space doesn't look like selective silence, and that's when it hit me. She didn't need space from everything, she needed space from me. That realization is different, because now it's not about understanding, it's about acceptance. You start replaying everything, trying to figure out when it changed, when her energy shifted, when the connection stopped being something she wanted to maintain. Because if it was really about space, she would have come back, she would have explained, she would have made it clear where things stood, but she didn't. She just faded and let the silence say what she didn't want to say directly. And the truth is, space is one of the easiest ways to leave without saying you're leaving. It sounds soft, it sounds understandable, it doesn't create conflict, but sometimes it's just distance in disguise, a way to slowly step out without having to take responsibility for ending it. And I didn't want to see it like that at first, because believing her felt easier than accepting what was actually happening. Because if I accepted it, then I had to admit something I wasn't ready for, that I wasn't someone she was trying to hold on to. I was someone she was slowly letting go of. And that's a different kind of pain, because it's quiet. There's no argument, no clear ending, just distance that keeps growing until you finally understand what it means. For a while I kept thinking she'd come back, that once she had her space, things would go back to how they were, because when something feels real, you don't expect it to end like that. You expect a conversation, closure, something, but sometimes the absence is the answer, and that's what I had to learn the hard way. And once I stopped waiting, everything started making more sense, because I wasn't confused anymore. I wasn't questioning where I stood. I wasn't trying to interpret silence. I just saw it for what it was. She didn't need time. She made a decision, just not one she wanted to say out loud. And yeah, that hurts, not just because she left, but because of how she did it. Because honesty would have been easier to respect, clarity would have been easier to accept, but instead, I was left trying to understand something that was never explained, and that kind of ending stays with you for a while. So yeah, she said she needed space, but what she really needed was distance from me, and now I understand something clearly. The right person doesn't disappear to figure out if they want you. They don't leave you in silence, they don't make you question everything. They communicate, they stay, they choose. So next time, I won't confuse silence with patience. I won't wait around for someone who already stepped away, because when someone truly wants you, they don't need space to decide it. You keep ignoring the red flags because all you want is love, not peace, not respect, not consistency, just love. You see the signs, you see the unanswered calls, the constant busy, the way you're always an option, never a priority. And instead of asking why it hurts, you ask how to endure it. You tell yourself it's patience, that it's loyalty, that love means staying even when it costs you. But let's be honest, she doesn't check on you. She doesn't consider your feelings. She doesn't show up the way you do. And you know that. You just don't want to face what it says about you for staying. So here's the real question you've been avoiding. How much do you actually love yourself? Because when you stay in situations that keep hurting you, when you keep accepting disrespect just to feel close to someone, that's not love. That's neglect. If you truly loved yourself, you wouldn't keep choosing pain just to feel wanted. You wouldn't keep lowering your standards to keep someone around who clearly isn't choosing you back. But you don't protect yourself, you sacrifice yourself, because being alone scares you more than being hurt. And that's why you accept the bare minimum. That's why you stay in toxic cycles. That's why you confuse attachment with love. You're not holding on because it's good for you. You're holding on because it's the only version of love you think you deserve. And that's the lie. You don't need someone else to complete you. What you actually need is to stop outsourcing your worth. Because the moment you start loving yourself, really loving yourself, you stop begging for attention. You stop tolerating disrespect. You stop calling pain connection. You stop chasing people who only show up halfway. Self-love doesn't make you selfish. It makes you unavailable to anything that keeps breaking you. And until you learn that, you'll keep calling suffering love and calling survival loyalty. You are worth more than crumbs. You are worth more than confusion. You are worth more than being an option. But no one can convince you of that until you decide to believe it yourself. Here's the truth you keep avoiding. You don't stay because you don't see the red flags. You stay because you think leaving means nobody else will love you. So you make excuses. She's busy. She's going through stuff. She just doesn't show love the same way. But effort isn't a love language. It's a choice. And when someone keeps choosing not to show up for you, that's not confusion, that's clarity. You're not being patient. You're being hopeful in a place that's already shown you who it is. You keep giving grace to people who wouldn't give you the same. You keep explaining your pain to someone who already decided it wasn't important enough to change. And every time you stay, you send yourself a message. My feelings come second. My needs are optional. This is the best I can get. That's not love. That's self-betrayal. You think walking away means losing them. But what you're really losing right now is respect for yourself, because someone who values you doesn't make you question your worth. They don't make you beg for consistency. They don't disappear and call it space. And the reason this keeps happening isn't because you love too hard. It's because you don't love yourself hard enough to leave when you should. The moment you start choosing yourself, red flags stop looking like obstacles and start looking like exits. And exits aren't failures, they're protection. Ignoring red flags doesn't just hurt you once, it trains people how to treat you. Every time you stay after disrespect, you teach them you'll tolerate it. Every time you forgive without change, you show them your boundaries don't mean much, and they adjust accordingly. They respond less, they try less, they care just enough to keep you around, but never enough to show up fully. Because why would they? You already proved you'll stay without effort. You think you're being understanding, but what you're really doing is normalizing behavior that shouldn't have access to you. You answer late replies immediately. You accept apologies without accountability. You let patterns repeat because you're afraid of starting over, and slowly, your standards drop while their comfort rises. That's the trade you're making. You're giving someone emotional safety while you live in emotional uncertainty. And the worst part? You start blaming yourself. You tell yourself you're asking for too much, that you're sensitive, that this is just how relationships are. But healthy love doesn't require endurance. You don't have to survive it. You don't have to fight for basic respect. You don't have to convince someone to treat you well. Red flags aren't challenges to overcome. They're warnings to listen to, and the longer you ignore them, the harder it becomes to remember what being valued even feels like. The pattern doesn't break when they change, it breaks when you do. The reason you keep ignoring red flags is because you confuse attachment with love. Love feels steady, attachment feels urgent. Love doesn't make you anxious. Attachment keeps you checking your phone, replaying conversations, wondering where you stand, and you call that passion. But what you're really feeling is fear. Fear of being replaced, fear of not being enough, fear that if you don't hold on tight, you'll be forgotten. So you cling, you stay when you should leave, you wait when there's nothing coming. You accept excuses because they're easier than facing the truth. That truth being, someone who wants you won't make you feel optional. Attachment makes you chase because it needs reassurance. Love doesn't chase, it meets. And until you learn the difference, every red flag will feel like something you just need to work through. You'll keep calling distance space, disrespect miscommunication, inconsistency timing, but your body already knows that tight feeling in your chest, that constant unease, that feeling of giving more than you're getting. That's not love warning you to try harder. That's your self-respect telling you to stop. You don't need clearer signs. You don't need closure. You don't need one more conversation. You need the courage to admit that attachment is keeping you stuck in places love would never ask you to stay. Walking away feels harder than staying because staying lets you avoid the truth. As long as you're still there, you can tell yourself it might change, that maybe tomorrow they'll care more, that maybe you're just being tested. Hope keeps you stuck because leaving means admitting you invested in something that wasn't good for you. It means admitting you ignored your instincts, that you stayed longer than you should have, that you loved someone who couldn't meet you halfway. And that hurts your pride. So instead, you endure. You tell yourself pain is temporary, that love requires sacrifice, that every relationship has rough patches. But here's the part you don't want to hear. Love doesn't consistently make you feel small. It doesn't drain you. It doesn't confuse you. It doesn't make you feel like you're asking for too much just by wanting basic respect. You stay because leaving forces accountability, not for them, but for you. It forces you to ask why you accepted less, why you ignored the signs, why you stayed quiet when your boundaries were crossed. And that's uncomfortable. But staying is costing you more than leaving ever will. Every day you remain in a situation that disrespects you, you reinforce the belief that this is all you deserve, and that belief is the real damage. Walking away isn't giving up on love, it's giving up on self-betrayal. And the moment you finally choose yourself, red flags stop feeling confusing. They feel obvious. The moment you stop ignoring red flags, everything gets quiet. No chaos, no anxiety spikes, no constant checking to see if someone still wants you. And at first, that silence feels uncomfortable because you're used to confusion, used to emotional ups and downs, used to love feeling like something you have to manage. So when you finally walk away, your brain starts questioning you. Maybe I overreacted. Maybe I should have stayed. Maybe this is just how love feels. But that's just withdrawal. You're not missing them. You're missing the familiarity of the pattern because ignoring red flags wasn't just about them. It was about what you were willing to tolerate to avoid being alone. Now that you've chosen yourself, you start seeing things clearly. You realize how drained you were, how often you made excuses, how little you were actually asking for compared to how much you were giving, and that clarity changes you. You don't feel pulled toward inconsistency anymore. You don't chase mixed signals. You don't feel tempted by people who only show up halfway. Because once you experience peace, chaos stops feeling exciting. You stop romanticizing struggle. You stop believing love has to hurt. You stop confusing anxiety with connection. And here's the biggest shift. You stop trying to be chosen. You start choosing. Who gets access to you? Who gets your time? Who gets your emotional energy? Red flags don't feel like puzzles anymore. They feel like answers. And instead of asking me, can I make this work? You ask, does this protect me? That's when self-respect kicks in. Not loud, not dramatic, just firm. When you stop ignoring red flags, people from your past don't recognize you anymore. Not because you changed for the worse, but because you stopped being convenient. You don't explain yourself as much. You don't over-justify your boundaries. You don't stay in conversations that feel disrespectful or draining, and that confuses people. They're used to the version of you that stayed quiet, that gave chances, that tried to understand at the expense of being understood. So when you walk away faster now, they call you cold. They say you've changed. They say you're doing too much. But what they really mean is you're no longer available for the dynamic they benefited from. People who thrived on your tolerance don't like your standards. People who were comfortable with your silence don't like your clarity. And that's okay. Because growth isn't about being liked, it's about being protected. You're not harsh, you're not bitter, you're not closed off. You're just done negotiating your self-respect. You no longer wait for disrespect to become unbearable before leaving. You don't need proof anymore. The first pattern is enough. And here's the part that matters most. The right people won't question this version of you. They won't push your boundaries. They won't test your tolerance. They won't need you to over-explain. They'll feel your standards and meet them naturally. Anyone who leaves because you stopped accepting red flags was never meant to stay anyway. That's not loss, that's alignment. Self-respect feels lonely at first, not because you're doing something wrong, but because you stopped tolerating what everyone else normalized. You don't have constant access to people anymore. You don't have drama to distract you. You don't have half connections keeping you entertained. And that quiet can feel heavy, because for a long time, chaos made you feel needed, inconsistency made you feel chosen, fixing things made you feel valuable. Now none of that is there, and your brain tries to convince you that you're missing out, that maybe you were happier when you stayed, that maybe standards are overrated, that maybe being lonely is worse than being disrespected. But that's just the adjustment period. You're unlearning a pattern where love had to hurt to feel real. Self-respect strips away the noise and leaves you with truth. You start seeing how many connections were built on convenience instead of care. How many people stayed because you made it easy for them, not because they valued you. And yes, that realization stings, but it also gives you something you didn't have before. Peace, no guessing, no waiting, no emotional whiplash, just clarity. And from that clarity, your standards get quieter but stronger. You don't announce them, you don't defend them, you just live by them. And anyone who can't meet you there falls away naturally. Loneliness isn't punishment here. It's space to rebuild your sense of worth without someone else validating it, space to remember who you are when you're not chasing or fixing or proving, and soon that loneliness turns into confidence, not loud confidence, stable confidence, the kind that doesn't rush, the kind that doesn't beg, the kind that knows red flags aren't obstacles, they're directions. At some point you realize something uncomfortable. You don't actually miss them. You miss the version of yourself that kept trying to be enough. You miss the effort you gave, the hope you held on to, the belief that if you just loved harder, things would finally change because chasing gave you purpose. It made your pain feel meaningful. It made waiting feel justified. It made disappointment feel like part of the process. Now that you've stopped, there's nothing left to fix. And that's when the grief shows up. You grieve the time you spent trying to earn what should have been given freely. You grieve the energy you poured into people who never poured back. You grieve the patience you mistook for love, not because you were foolish, but because you cared. And it hurts to admit that caring didn't save anything. You start seeing clearly how often you ignored your own voice, how many times your body told you to leave while your heart begged you to stay. You stayed loyal to people who weren't loyal to your peace, and that realization is heavy, because now you can't go back, you can't unsee the patterns, you can't pretend disrespect was accidental, you can't convince yourself that red flags were just misunderstandings. You've outgrown the version of you that survived on hope alone, and while that growth is necessary, it still feels like loss. But here's the truth. You didn't lose something real. You let go of something that only existed because you kept tolerating it. And the more distance you get, the clearer it becomes. What you were missing wasn't love, it was self-respect. Ignoring red flags was never about love. It was about not wanting to choose yourself. Because choosing yourself meant walking away without guarantees, without reassurance, without someone else filling the silence, so you stayed. You told yourself love takes patience, that people need time, that your pain was just part of the process, but deep down, you knew the truth. You weren't staying because it felt right. You were staying because leaving felt terrifying, terrifying to be alone, terrifying to admit you deserved better, terrifying to sit with the idea that you chose someone who couldn't choose you back, though you ignored the signs. Not because you didn't see them, but because seeing them meant action. And action meant accountability. But here's what finally clicks. Red flags don't hurt you. Ignoring them does. Every time you stayed, you taught yourself that your needs were optional. Every time you excused behavior, you taught yourself that love should be endured. Every time you waited for change, you delayed your own growth. And that cycle doesn't end when someone finally treats you right. It ends when you stop accepting what treats you wrong. Choosing yourself doesn't mean you stop wanting love. It means you stop betraying yourself just to keep it. It means you walk away sooner. You trust discomfort. You listen the first time something feels off. Not because you're cold, but because you're done confusing pain with connection. And once you reach this point, red flags don't feel complicated anymore. They feel clear. You don't argue with them. You don't negotiate with them. You don't try to turn them green. You leave because now you understand something you didn't before. Being alone is temporary. Self-betrayal is cumulative. and you're no longer willing to pay that price. That's not bitterness, that's self-respect, and that's where the cycle finally ends. I don't care how corny it sounds. I'm not going to stop being a lover, not until I get the kind of love I've always imagined, the kind where there's no confusion, no wandering attention, no half-interest disguised as effort, just one person, and a world that feels smaller because of it. I want love where focus doesn't drift, where nobody else even registers, where love in them feels instinctive, not forced. The kind of love that doesn't try to be cinematic, it just is. Two people driving with no destination, standing in open fields, traveling for no reason other than wanting to be together. The kind of love you don't just feel in your chest, you feel it in your soul, hot, intense, alive. And I don't understand how people walk around pretending that kind of love doesn't matter. Like love is casual, like attachment is embarrassing, like caring deeply is something you should hide, because love is everything. It's sharing the world with someone, learning their habits, reading their moods, knowing them in ways no one else does. It's going from stranger to someone you can't imagine life without. And yeah, love comes with risk, heartbreak, loss, pain, but I'm here for all of it, because if that's the price of loving deeply, I'll pay it. I'll take the uncertainty, I'll take the scars, I'll take the ache that comes with caring. What makes it hard sometimes isn't loving deeply, it's loving deeply in a world that pretends not to care. People act like being attached is weak, like wanting someone fully is desperate. They call it being nonchalant. They call it cool. They call it protecting yourself. But to me, it just feels empty. I don't want love that's casual. I don't want half interest. I don't want to pretend I wouldn't be devastated if I lost someone I truly cared about. I want to feel it, all of it. I want the kind of love where my heart is completely in, no exits, no backups, no pretending. And yeah, that makes me vulnerable. It means I get hurt easier. It means I feel things more intensely, but I'd rather feel everything than live numb just to look unbothered. Because loving deeply isn't weakness, it's courage. It takes guts to say, I want you fully. I'm choosing you. I'm not scared to care. And maybe that's why it feels lonely sometimes, because not everyone is built to love like that. Some people close their hearts after pain. Others keep theirs open, not because they're naive, but because they refuse to let disappointment turn them cold. You don't love deeply because it's easy. You love deeply because it's who you are. And even when it costs you, you'd still rather feel everything than live a life that feels hollow. You already know how this can end. You know love can break you. You know it can leave scars. You know it can take pieces you don't get back. And still, you choose it. Not because you're reckless, not because you're desperate, but because a life without love feels smaller than a life with heartbreak. You're not chasing perfection, you're chasing connection. The kind that makes ordinary moments feel alive, the kind that makes the world feel louder and quieter at the same time. And once you've felt even a glimpse of that, you can't pretend you don't want it anymore. So yeah, you risk it again, you open your heart again, you believe again. Not because you forgot the pain, but because you decided it wasn't stronger than your capacity to love. Being a lover boy doesn't mean you ignore reality. It means you face it and still choose love anyway. You're not asking for perfection, you're asking for presence, for a love that feels mutual, chosen, clear. And wanting that doesn't make you unrealistic, it makes you honest. Because once you know how deeply you can love, you stop settling for anything that asks you to dim that fire. So, no, the lover boy in you isn't dying, he's just waiting. And when the right love finally arrives, he'll be ready. What people don't realize is how much strength it takes to stay soft in a world that rewards detachment. It's easier to act unbothered, easier to keep things light, easier to pretend you don't care that much, but you were never built that way. You don't love halfway, you don't feel quietly. When you care, it shows in your effort, in your loyalty, and how present you are. And that's exactly what people try to shame out of you. They tell you you're too much, too attached, too intense. Like love is something you're supposed to ration. So sometimes you wonder if you should change, if caring less would protect you, if closing off would finally make things easier. But every time you try, it feels wrong, because pretending not to care cost you more than heartbreak ever did. You don't want to love where you're constantly monitoring yourself, where you have to downplay your feelings to seem cool. You want to love where effort isn't embarrassing, where loyalty isn't laughed at, where wanting someone fully isn't treated like a flaw. And yes, that kind of love is rare, not because it doesn't exist, but because not everyone has the capacity for it. Some people love with caution, some love with conditions, some love with one foot out the door. You love with your whole chest, and that means when it ends, it hurts differently. You don't just lose a person, you lose the future you already pictured, the version of yourself that only existed with them. But even after that pain, you don't harden, you don't turn cold, you don't become bitter, you grieve, and then you stay open. Not because you're naive, but because you understand something others don't. Love isn't dangerous, avoidance is. A life spent protecting yourself from ever being hurt is a life spent never being fully alive. So you keep choosing love, even when it costs you, even when it scares you. Because being a lover was never about guarantees, it was about courage. And no matter how many times the world tells you to be smaller, to care less, to guard your heart, you don't. Because the lover boy in you knows one truth: a heart that can love deeply is never something to be ashamed of. People who love like you often feel out of place, not because there's something wrong with them, but because the world isn't built for hearts that don't know how to love halfway. You walk into spaces where everyone is guarding themselves, where effort is calculated, where caring too much is treated like a mistake you should have learned from by now. And you can feel it, the hesitation, the emotional distance, the way people keep one foot out the door just in case. Meanwhile, you're standing there ready to choose someone fully if they'd just meet you halfway. That contrast can feel isolating. You start wondering if you're outdated, if your way of loving belongs to another time, another kind of world, because it feels like everyone else is playing it safe while you're still willing to risk your heart, and that makes you stand out. Not loudly, but deeply. You don't bond casually, you don't talk just to fill silence. When you connect, you notice things others miss, you remember details people forget, you show up in ways that don't disappear easily, and that kind of presence can be uncomfortable for people who aren't ready to be seen that closely. So they pull back, they joke about you caring too much, they call your intensity a lot. Not because it is, but because they don't know how to match it. That's the part that hurts, realizing you're not too much, you're just too deep for people who only know how to skim the surface. You don't want love that feels convenient, you want love that feels intentional. You don't want someone who chooses you when it's easy. You want someone who chooses you because they mean it. And yeah, that narrows the field. It means you'll feel alone sometimes. It means you'll walk away more than you stay. It means you won't fit everywhere. But fitting everywhere was never the goal. The longing was. The lover boy in you isn't broken because he doesn't blend in. He just hasn't found the place where his kind of love is spoken fluently. And when he does, it won't feel like standing out anymore. It'll feel like coming home. Loving this deeply almost always comes with loneliness first. Not because you're doing something wrong, but because alignment takes time. When you love with your whole heart, you don't rush into anything just to feel chosen. You don't settle for attention that fades. You don't accept half presence just to avoid being alone. And that means there are stretches where it feels like everyone else has someone and you don't. You watch people pair up quickly, jump from connection to connection, call it love because it fills the space, and sometimes you wonder if you're being too patient, too selective, too unwilling to compromise. But deep down, you know the truth. You're not afraid of being alone. You're afraid of being half-loved. You don't want a relationship that feels like constant self-editing, where you have to mute your feelings, where your intensity is treated like a problem instead of a gift. So you wait, not passively, intentionally. You keep your heart open, but your standards intact. And that's the lonely part no one talks about. Choosing alignment over company, choosing depth over distraction, choosing to sit with the emptiness rather than fill it with something that won't last. Some nights it feels heavy. You question whether it's worth it, whether anyone will ever meet you at the level you're willing to love. But then you remember something important. The love you want can't be rushed. It needs two people who aren't scared of closeness, who don't joke about vulnerability, who don't treat commitment like a trap. And until that shows up, being alone is still safer than shrinking yourself. The lover boy in you isn't lonely because he's lacking. He's lonely because he's waiting for something real. And real love doesn't arrive loudly. It arrives aligned. The lover boy gets misunderstood a lot. People look at the way you love and assume it comes from neediness, from insecurity, from not knowing how to be alone. But that's never been true. You don't love deeply because you're afraid of being by yourself. You love deeply because you know how to be alone and still choose connection. There's a difference. You're not reaching for someone to fill a void. You're reaching because you want to share a life you already know how to carry on your own. But in a world obsessed with detachment, depth gets mislabeled, caring becomes too much, consistency becomes clingy, wanting clarity becomes pressure, so people tell you to chill, to play it cool, to act like you don't care as much as you do. And for a while you try. You soften your words, you hold back your feelings, you pretend you're less invested than your heart actually is. But it never feels right. Because loving quietly when you feel loudly starts to feel like lying to yourself. You don't want to be mysterious. You don't want to be distant. You don't want to be someone who treats love like a game of leverage. You want honesty. You want effort that isn't embarrassing. Commitment that isn't mocked. Connection that doesn't require you to minimize who you are. And the truth is, people who can't handle that were never going to meet you where you stand anyway. They confuse emotional availability with weakness because they've never felt safe enough to offer it themselves. So they pull away, they joke, they keep things light, not because you're too much, but because your depth asks them to be real. And not everyone is ready for that. The lover boy isn't misunderstood because he loves wrong. He's misunderstood because he loves honestly in a world that prefers control. And one day, someone won't ask you to tone it down. They won't call your care extra. They won't flinch at your intensity. They'll recognize it because they've been looking for someone who loves like you, without fear, without games, without holding back. One thing people get wrong about you is thinking you lose yourself in love, that you disappear, that you abandon who you are, just keep someone close. But that's not what loving deeply means to you. You don't give your heart away blindly. You give it intentionally. You're aware of the risk. You feel the fear. You know exactly how much it can hurt, and you still choose to love, not because you don't value yourself, but because you refuse to live guarded out of fear. There's a difference between protecting your heart and closing it. Closing it is pretending you don't care. Protecting it is knowing when to walk away without turning cold. And that's something you had to learn the hard way. You've loved people who couldn't meet you emotionally, who enjoyed your warmth but never offered shelter in return. And each time you didn't lose your softness, you refined it. You learned to notice effort, to listen to consistency, to believe actions more than potential. You learned that loving deeply doesn't mean tolerating confusion. It doesn't mean waiting forever. It doesn't mean accepting less than what you give. So now you love with boundaries, not walls, boundaries. You stay open, but you don't stay where you feel unseen. You express yourself, but you don't beg to be understood. You give fully, but only where there's room for you. That's growth. The lover boy in you didn't harden, he matured. He learned that protecting his heart doesn't mean dimming his light. It means choosing spaces where that light is welcomed. And that's why, when you love again, it won't consume you. It'll expand you, because this time you won't confuse intensity with imbalance. You'll recognize the difference between passion and peace. At some point, you stop mistaking chaos for passion. You stop thinking intensity means confusion. You stop believing love has to feel unstable to feel real. That shift doesn't happen overnight. It comes after loving people who kept you guessing, after giving effort that wasn't matched, after realizing how tired you were from loving alone in a two-person connection. Because for a long time, you thought love was supposed to feel urgent, heavy, like something you had to fight for. But real reciprocity feels different. It doesn't spike your anxiety. It doesn't make you question your place. It doesn't leave you replaying conversations or wondering if you asked for too much. Mutual love feels calm, not boring, steady. It feels like someone meeting your effort without keeping score, like someone choosing you without needing to be convinced. And at first, that kind of love almost feels unfamiliar, because you're used to proving yourself, used to earning attention, used to being the one who cares more. So when someone shows up consistently, communicates clearly, and doesn't flinch at your depth, your body has to unlearn the chaos. You have to remind yourself that peace doesn't mean lack of passion. It means safety. You don't feel smaller around them. You don't feel like you're too much. You don't feel like you need to dim anything. Your intensity doesn't scare them. It reassures them. And that's when it clicks. Love was never supposed to feel like survival. It was supposed to feel like partnership. The lover boy doesn't stop loving deeply. He just stops loving unevenly. He stops pouring into places that don't pour back. He stops calling inconsistency timing, stops calling confusion chemistry, stops calling bare minimum effort, because once you've tasted reciprocity, you can't go back. You can't unfeel what it's like to be met where you stand. And that's when loving deeply finally feels light. Loving deeply doesn't disappear. It just becomes selective. After everything you've felt, everything you've learned, you don't stop wanting connection. You stop giving it away too easily. You don't rush anymore, not because you're guarded, but because you understand your capacity. You know how much you give, how present you are, how deeply you attach, and you're careful about where that kind of love lands. That doesn't mean you're closed off. It means you're intentional. You don't entertain mixed signals. You don't romanticize inconsistency. You don't chase potential while ignoring reality. You pay attention now to effort, to follow through, to how someone shows up when things are calm, not just when things are exciting. Because you've learned that real love isn't proven in intensity alone. It's proven in consistency, and the people who are right for you won't be intimidated by that. They won't feel pressured by your depth. They won't joke about you caring too much. They won't need you to shrink to make them comfortable. They'll respect the way you love because they love the same way. That's the shift. You're not asking for more than before. You're just no longer accepting less. You still want closeness, still want loyalty, still want that kind of connection where the world feels quieter because someone chose you fully. But now you're patient with people, not with uncertainty. You're open to love, not to confusion. And that's how the lover boy grows. Not into someone colder, but into someone clearer. Someone who knows that loving deeply isn't about giving your heart to everyone who shows interest. It's about giving it to someone who knows how to hold it. Before the right love shows up, the lover boy is usually alone for a while. Not because he can't find connection, but because he refuses to force it. He's learned what happens when you fill space just to avoid loneliness, how quickly comfort turns into compromise, how easy it is to lose yourself when you accept something that doesn't fully meet you. So he chooses solitude instead, and solitude teaches him things love never could. It shows him who he is without anyone else's expectations, without adjusting his emotions, without holding back his intensity to make someone stay. He learns how to sit with himself, how to enjoy quiet, how to be fulfilled without external validation. And that's important, because when you know how to be alone, you stop accepting love that feels like abandonment in disguise. During this time, he doesn't become detached, he becomes clear about what drains him, clear about what feels safe, clear about the kind of love that actually aligns with who he is. He stops craving attention, stops mistaking chemistry for compatibility, stops confusing being wanted with being understood. And yes, some days are heavy. He still wants connection, still imagines sharing moments with someone, still feels that pull toward closeness. But the difference now is that he won't trade his peace for proximity. He knows the right love won't require him to chase, won't ask him to question his worth, won't make him feel like he has to earn care. So he waits, not anxiously, not desperately, but confidently, because he understands something now. Being alone isn't a punishment. It's preparation. It's a space where he becomes exactly the version of himself the right love will recognize immediately. And when that love finally arrives, it won't feel like relief. It'll feel familiar. The lover boy was never naive. He knew what love could cost him. He knew how deeply it could hurt. He knew it could break him, leave marks he'd carry for years, and he chose it anyway. Not because he didn't understand the risk, but because a life without love felt smaller than a life with scars. For a long time, he thought loving this way was a flaw, something he'd eventually outgrow, something pain was supposed to cure, but it never did. Every heartbreak slowed him down, made him more careful, more aware, but it never killed that part of him that wanted connection, because loving it deeply was never a phase. It was part of his design. He wasn't meant to love casually. He wasn't built for half interest or emotional distance. He was built to choose one person and mean it. That's why it hurt more. That's why waiting felt heavier. That's why walking away took courage. But all of it shaped him. It taught him boundaries without bitterness, standards without arrogance, patience without self-abandonment. So now, when he looks back, he doesn't regret loving the way he did. He doesn't regret caring too much. He doesn't regret believing. He doesn't regret wanting something rare, because one day someone will meet him in that same place. They won't flinch at his intensity. They won't joke about his softness. They won't treat his loyalty like it's replaceable. They'll recognize it. And when that happens, everything will feel different. No anxiety, no confusion, no wondering where he stands, just clarity, effort that feels mutual, love that feels chosen, connection that doesn't require him to dim anything, and suddenly all the waiting makes sense. Not because it was easy, Diaz, but because it protected him from settling for less than he was capable of giving. So no, the lover boy doesn't die, he doesn't disappear, he doesn't harden into someone unrecognizable. He just learns who deserves him, and when the right love finally arrives, he won't have to prove anything. He'll simply be met, and that's all he ever wanted. I miss who I was before her. Not because I don't believe in growth, not because I regret loving her, but because somewhere in the middle of trying to keep us together, I started losing pieces of myself. Before her, I was lighter. I didn't overthink texts. I didn't reread conversations searching for hidden meaning. I didn't question whether I was too much or not enough in the same breath. I moved through life steady, confident in who I was, comfortable in my own routine, secure in my own energy, and then I fell in love. And love is beautiful, but it also exposes you. It exposes your insecurities, your attachment style, your fear of loss. At first, it felt like growth. I was learning to compromise, learning to communicate better, learning to open up emotionally in ways I hadn't before. But slowly, something shifted. I stopped asking what felt right for me and started asking what would keep her happy. I stopped protecting my peace and started protecting the relationship, And there's a difference, because when you constantly adjust to avoid conflict, you don't even realize you're shrinking. You think you're being mature, you think you're being understanding, but sometimes you're just slowly abandoning yourself, and that's what hurts the most. Not that it ended, but that by the time it did, I didn't feel like the same person anymore. Before her, I didn't measure my worth through someone else's mood. If someone was distant, I assumed they needed space, not that I had done something wrong. If someone disagreed with me, I didn't internalize it as rejection, but with her, every shift felt personal, every silence felt loaded, every small argument felt like it could turn into something bigger, and instead of staying grounded, I started adapting, talking softer, holding back opinions, choosing peace over honesty, not because I was scared of her, but because I was scared of losing her. And when you start operating from fear instead of authenticity, you begin to change subtly. You become more careful than confident, more reactive than relaxed, more focused on maintaining connection than maintaining identity. I remember catching myself one day thinking, I wouldn't have reacted like this before. And that realization hit, because love shouldn't erase you. It should expand you, but I wasn't expanding, I was adjusting constantly, and the version of me that used to move freely was slowly becoming calculated, and I miss that freedom. I miss my peace, the kind of peace where I didn't wake up wondering how the day would feel emotionally, the kind where my phone didn't control my mood, the kind where silence wasn't threatening. Before her, I enjoyed my solitude. After her, I feared it, because I had trained myself to associate connection with validation. If we were good, I felt secure. If we were off, I felt unsettled, and that emotional dependency crept in quietly. I didn't notice it happening. I just noticed that when things ended, I felt empty in a way I hadn't before, not just because she was gone, but because I had built so much of my emotional rhythm around her. And that's when I realized I wasn't just grieving her, I was grieving myself, the version of me who didn't need reassurance to feel stable, the version of me who didn't overanalyze tone, the version of me who didn't question his value after every disagreement. That version felt strong, grounded, unshakable, and I want him back. I miss my boundaries. Before her, I knew what I tolerated and what I didn't. I didn't chase inconsistent energy. I didn't excuse disrespect. I didn't overextend myself for someone who wasn't meeting me halfway. But when you love someone, you justify things you normally wouldn't. You call red flags rough patches. You call inconsistency stress. You call emotional distance needing space. And sometimes those things are true, but sometimes they're excuses. And I made a lot of excuses, not because I was blind, but because I was invested. An investment makes you patient, sometimes too patient. By the end, I was tolerating things that the old version of me would have walked away from immediately, and that realization stings because it means I compromised more than I should have. Not just for the relationship, but at the expense of myself. The hardest part about missing who I was before her is admitting that I participated in my own transformation. She didn't force me to shrink. I chose to. I chose to overextend. I chose to overcompensate. I chose to prioritize us over me every time there was tension. And that's a hard truth to sit with, because it would be easier to blame her entirely, but growth doesn't come from blame. It comes from ownership. I let love make me forget myself. And now that it's over, I have to rebuild the parts I neglected, not because loving her was wrong, but because losing myself in the process was. I miss my clarity. Before her, I didn't romanticize potential. If something felt off, I trusted it. If something felt unbalanced, I addressed it. But with her, I kept believing in what it could be, not just what it was. And hope is powerful. It keeps you fighting, it keeps you patient, but it can also keep you stuck. I held on to the version of us that existed in the beginning. The laughter, the effort, the mutual excitement, and I ignored the gradual shift because I didn't want to accept it, and that's when I stopped being objective. I became attached to the idea of us more than the reality of us, and that's not who I used to be. I miss how secure I felt alone. Before her, I enjoyed my independence, my routine, my hobbies, my friendships. I didn't need constant validation. I didn't need constant reassurance. But somewhere along the way, my world started revolving around her schedule, her availability, her emotional state, and I lost balance. When you give someone that much influence over your emotional state, you hand them power without realizing it. And when they leave, you feel powerless, not because you're weak, but because you attach too much of your stability to their presence, and I don't want that again. I want interdependence, not dependency. I don't regret loving her, but I regret abandoning myself while doing it. There's a difference. Love should complement you, not consume you. It should challenge you to grow, not pressure you to shrink. And I see now that the old version of me wasn't naive. He was grounded. He trusted himself. He walked away from imbalance without hesitation. And somewhere in trying to prove I could make it work, I stopped trusting my instincts. That's the part I want back, not the detachment. The discernment, maybe missing who I was before her, is actually part of becoming better than that version. Because now I see my patterns. I see how easily I overextend when I care. I see how quickly I prioritize someone else's comfort over my own. And awareness is powerful. The old me was confident, but this version, he's wiser. He knows how quickly identity can blur inside love. He knows how subtle self-abandonment can be. And next time he won't lose himself trying to hold something together. I miss who I was before her, but maybe I'm not supposed to go back. Maybe I'm supposed to rebuild, stronger, more self-aware, more balanced. I don't want the version of me who never loved deeply. I want the version who loves deeply without disappearing, who commits without compromising identity, who stays loyal without neglecting himself. She changed me, but she didn't ruin me. If anything, she exposed where I needed boundaries, where I needed balance, where I needed to remember who I am outside of a relationship, and I will get back to that version, not the one before her, the one after her, but wiser, stronger, and impossible to lose again. I think the hardest thing to admit now is that I waited too long for her. Not a few days, not a few weeks. I'm talking about months of believing that eventually she would see me the way I saw her. Because when you really care about someone, patience feels like loyalty. You tell yourself that love isn't supposed to be rushed, that real connections take time, that sometimes people just need space to figure things out. So I gave her that space. I stayed patient when things felt uncertain. I stayed loyal even when the energy between us started shifting. And every time something felt off, I told myself the same thing. Just give it time. Time would make her realize how much I cared. Time would make the connection stronger. Time would make everything finally fall into place. But looking back now, I realize something painful. Sometimes time doesn't fix things. Sometimes time just shows you what someone was never going to choose. And while I was waiting, she was slowly moving in a different direction. Well, when you wait for someone you care about, it doesn't feel like you're wasting time. It feels like you're being loyal. You tell yourself that patience is proof that your feelings are real, that if you just stay consistent long enough, eventually they'll see what's right in front of them. So that's what I did. I stayed. Even when the signs started becoming confusing, there were moments where she would pull closer again. Moments where the conversations felt like they used to. Moments where she would say things that made it seem like maybe, just maybe, we were finally getting somewhere. And every time that happened, it reset my hope. It made me believe the waiting was worth it. Because hope is powerful. Hope convinces you that the future will eventually match the way you feel. But the problem with hope is that it can keep you standing in the same place while the other person is slowly walking somewhere else. And I didn't see that at the time, because while I was waiting for things to become clearer, she was slowly becoming less certain about us. And the scariest part is how quietly that shift happens. It doesn't start with a big moment. It starts with small changes, replies that come slower, conversations that feel shorter, energy that feels just a little different than before. At first you ignore it because you tell yourself the same thing you've been telling yourself the whole time. Just give it time. But sometimes time doesn't move people closer. Sometimes it slowly moves them away. And by the time you realize that, you've already waited longer than you should have. The strange thing about waiting for someone is that you don't realize how much time you're giving away until you look back at it. While I was waiting for her to figure out her feelings, my whole mindset was built around patience. I told myself that real connections take time, that people sometimes need space before they realize what's right in front of them. So whenever things felt uncertain, I convinced myself that uncertainty was just part of the process. I thought eventually she would see me the way I saw her, but the longer I waited, the more the relationship started feeling one-sided. Not in obvious ways. She still talked to me. She still checked in sometimes. She still kept the connection alive just enough that it never felt completely over. And that's the part that kept me there, because every small moment of closeness made it seem like progress. Like maybe we were finally moving towards something real. But looking back now, those moments didn't mean we were getting closer. They just meant she wasn't ready to fully let me go yet. And there's a big difference between someone building something with you and someone keeping you close while they're still figuring out what they want. At the time, I couldn't see that difference clearly. All I knew was that I cared about her, and I believed that eventually she would care about me the same way. So I stayed patient, even when the signs started becoming harder to ignore, even when the connection started feeling less stable than it used to. Because once you invest that much time waiting for someone, it becomes harder to walk away. You start telling yourself that leaving now would mean all that waiting was for nothing. So you stay longer, you give it more time, you hope just a little more, and that's how you end up realizing something painful later on. You didn't just wait for her. You waited too long. The hardest part about waiting too long for someone is realizing that the time you gave them was real, even if the outcome wasn't. Because every day I stayed patient, I believed it meant something. Every message I sent, every conversation where I tried to understand her better, every moment where I chose to stay instead of walking away when things felt uncertain, to me those moments were proof that I cared, proof that the connection mattered enough to fight for. But there's something difficult about waiting that you don't notice until it's already happened. Waiting slowly turns into hoping, and hoping slowly turns into ignoring reality. There were signs that things weren't moving the way I thought they were. Moments where her effort didn't match mine. Moments where the connection felt like it was staying in the same place instead of growing. Moments where it felt like I was investing more emotionally than she was. But every time I noticed those signs, I told myself the same thing. Just give it more time. Because when you care about someone, you don't want to believe the connection might not lead anywhere. You want to believe the patience will eventually pay off. But the truth is, patience only works when both people are moving toward the same thing. If one person is waiting while the other person is slowly drifting away, time doesn't bring you closer. It just stretches the distance. And by the time I started realizing that, I had already waited longer than I should have. Another thing about waiting too long for someone is how quietly it changes your life. Because when you're emotionally invested in someone, your decisions start revolving around them. You hold space for them in your future. You imagine what things could become. You avoid moving on because a part of you still believes they might eventually choose you. And that's exactly what I did. I didn't explore other connections. I didn't let myself get too close to anyone else because, in my mind, I was already committed to her, even if the relationship wasn't fully defined. And that's the trap of waiting. You stay emotionally loyal to someone who hasn't fully chosen you yet, not because you're naive, but because you believe loyalty will eventually be recognized. You believe that if someone sees how patient you are, how consistent you are, how much you care, They'll eventually realize you're the right person, but life doesn't always work like that. Sometimes people appreciate your patience, sometimes they even care about you, but that doesn't always mean they'll choose you. And that's a painful thing to understand, because it means the time you gave them didn't guarantee the future you imagined. And when that realization finally hits, you start asking yourself a difficult question. Was I waiting for the right person? Or was I waiting for someone who was never going to choose me in the first place? Once I started asking myself that question, honestly, everything began to look different. Because when you stop looking at the situation through hope, you start seeing it through clarity. And clarity shows you things you didn't want to notice before. Like how often I was the one reaching out first, how often I was the one trying to keep the connection alive, how often I was the one convincing myself that things would eventually work out. At the time, I thought that was just what patience looked like, but now I understand something important. Patience in a relationship only makes sense when both people are building something together. If only one person is investing time, effort, and emotional energy, that's not patience. That's imbalance. And I was standing in that imbalance longer than I should have, because I kept believing that eventually the effort would be returned, eventually the connection would stabilize, eventually she would see me the same way I saw her, but eventually never came. And the hardest part about realizing that isn't just the heartbreak, it's realizing how much time you spent waiting for something that was never truly moving toward you. For a while, that realization made me feel foolish, because it made me feel like I should have known sooner, like I should have seen the signs earlier, like I should have walked away the moment things started feeling uncertain. But the truth is, caring about someone doesn't make you foolish, it makes you human. When you believe in someone, you want to give them the benefit of the doubt. You want to believe their uncertainty is temporary. You want to believe the connection you feel will eventually become mutual, so you stay longer, you give more time, you hope a little harder, and sometimes that hope leads to something real. But sometimes it just leads to a lesson. And the lesson I learned is something I'll never forget. You shouldn't have to wait indefinitely for someone to recognize your value. If someone truly sees you as part of their future, they don't leave you standing in uncertainty for months. They choose you, and they show that choice through their actions. Once I understood that, the pain started changing into something else. Perspective. Because waiting too long for someone doesn't mean you were weak. It means you believed in the possibility of something meaningful. And there's nothing wrong with believing in people, but there's a difference between believing in someone and ignoring the reality of their actions, because actions always tell the truth eventually. Someone who truly wants you doesn't keep you waiting forever. They don't keep you guessing about where you stand. They don't keep you in a place where you feel like you're hoping more than you're building. They make their intentions clear, and if someone doesn't do that, the waiting only leads to one outcome. Eventually you realize you were holding space for someone who wasn't holding space for you. When I finally stopped waiting for her, something surprising happened. I started getting my clarity back. Because when you're waiting for someone emotionally, a part of your life feels paused. Your focus stays tied to the possibility of what could happen. Your decisions revolve around the connection. Your energy stays invested in someone who might not even be moving in the same direction. But the moment you stop waiting, everything shifts. You start seeing things more objectively. You start realizing how much emotional energy you were giving to someone who wasn't fully present, and you start understanding something important. The time you spent waiting wasn't wasted. It taught you exactly what you should never accept again. Looking back now, I can honestly say I waited too long for her, but I don't regret caring. I don't regret being patient, because those things say something about who I am. What I do regret is staying in uncertainty longer than I should have, because the right person doesn't make you wait forever to feel chosen. They don't keep you in a constant state of hoping. They don't make you question whether the connection is real. They make their intentions clear. They meet your effort with their own, and they move forward with you, not away from you. So yeah, I waited too long for her, but that experience taught me something I'll carry with me forever. Next time I won't stay in a place where I feel like I'm waiting to be chosen, because the right connection doesn't feel like waiting. It feels like moving forward together. We all know that one friend who's genuinely a good guy, not the fake nice kind, not the kind that's only good when it benefits him. I mean the real kind, the one who listens more than he talks, the one who checks in just because, the one who walks her home, texts, "Let me know when you get there," and actually waits for the reply, not for points, not for validation, just because that's who he is. He shows up when people call. He remembers small details, he gives effort without keeping score, and somehow he's always the one that gets hurt. Girls say they want a good guy. They say they're tired of games, tired of being treated wrong, but when a good guy actually shows up, he gets pushed to the side, kept around just in case, treated like an option instead of a choice. He gets left on red, gets mixed signals, gets told, "You're amazing, just not right now." And then one day, he watches her choose someone who won't even do half of what he did. And the worst part? He doesn't complain about it, he jokes it off, acts like it doesn't bother him, plays it cool. But if you're paying attention, you see the change. He laughs less, questions himself more, starts wondering if being genuine is the problem. If caring too much makes him weak, if being a good guy even matters anymore, so he hardens a little, pulls back, stops giving as freely, not because he wants to be cold, but because the world keeps teaching him that softness gets punished. It reminds me of Tanjiro from Demon Slayer. Gentle, compassionate, kind even to people who don't deserve it. People mistake that kindness for weakness until they realize how much strength it actually takes to stay good in a cruel world. That's the truth people forget. Real strength isn't loud. It doesn't dominate. It doesn't need to prove itself. Real strength is staying kind when life gives you every reason not to be. So if you know a guy like that, be there for him. Remind him that his heart isn't a flaw, that being good isn't something he needs to outgrow, because one day someone is going to see him, really see him, and they won't make him pay for the damage done by people who couldn't handle his heart. And when that happens, being a good guy will finally feel worth it. What people don't realize is how early the good guy starts changing himself without even noticing. At first it's small, he replies a little slower, he stops double texting, he thinks twice before doing something thoughtful because he's scared it'll be taken the wrong way, not appreciated, or worse, ignored. He starts asking himself questions he never used to ask. Am I doing too much? Should I care less? Why do I always end up like this? And that's dangerous, because now he's learning to dull the very traits that made him special. The world doesn't break good guys all at once. It chips away at him slowly. Every time his effort isn't matched, every time his loyalty is taken for granted, every time he's told he's perfect but still not chosen. Eventually he starts building walls, not because he wants to play games, but because he's tired of being the only one who loses when he plays fair. He watches people who treat others poorly get rewarded with attention, love, and chances, and he wonders what he's doing wrong for choosing empathy instead of ego. But here's what nobody tells him. Being a good guy isn't about what you receive immediately, it's about who you become long-term. Patience he has, the emotional awareness, the ability to love deeply without needing control. Those qualities don't disappear just because they've been overlooked. They mature, and when the right person finally comes along, those same traits won't feel like a burden. They'll feel like safety, like home, like something rare in a world full of half-effort and emotional detachment. The good guy doesn't lose, he just waits longer for the right win. There's also something else the good good guy carries that no one talks about. Guilt for feeling angry when he's treated unfairly, guilt for wanting to pull away, guilt for even questioning whether being kind is worth it anymore, because deep down he doesn't want to become someone he wouldn't recognize. So instead of expressing that frustration, he swallows it. He tells himself to be patient, to be understanding, to give people the benefit of the doubt, even when they've shown him who they are multiple times. And that self-control, that restraint, it takes more strength than most people will ever realize, but it comes at a cost. He starts to feel invisible, like his effort only matters when it's convenient for someone else, like his loyalty is expected, not appreciated. And the scariest part isn't that people take advantage of him, it's that he starts expecting it. That's when the good guy begins to question his worth. Not in a dramatic way, quietly, internally. He wonders if he needs to be colder to be respected, louder to be noticed, less caring to be chosen. And even though he doesn't like those thoughts, they creep in anyway. But here's the truth he needs to hear. The world doesn't need more detached people pretending they don't care. It needs more people who choose kindness, even when it's inconvenient. More people who know how to love without manipulation. More people who stay solid when everything around them feels fake. The good guy isn't weak for feeling deeply. He's strong for not letting pain turn him into something he's not. And one day that integrity will matter more than all the times he was overlooked. At some point, the good guy has to learn a hard lesson. Being kind doesn't mean being available to everyone. Being loyal doesn't mean tolerating disrespect. And having a good heart doesn't mean you owe it to people who keep proving they don't know how to handle it. This is usually the stage where he starts choosing himself. Not in a selfish way, not in a bitter way, but in a quiet, self-respecting way. He stops chasing people who only reach out when it's convenient. He stops over-explaining his intentions. He stops proving that he's different. Because the truth is, the right people don't need convincing. The good guy learns that boundaries aren't walls, they're filters. They don't block love, they block misuse. And once he understands that, everything changes. He becomes more selective with his energy, more intentional with who gets access to him. He still cares deeply, but now it's earned. This is where his strength really shows. He doesn't become cruel, he doesn't become cold, he just becomes aware. He learns that love shouldn't feel like constantly waiting your turn, that effort shouldn't feel one-sided, that if someone truly values you, they won't make you question where you stand. And when he finally meets someone who matches his energy, who sees his kindness as safety instead of weakness, it clicks. All the waiting, all the hurt, all the doubt, it suddenly makes sense. Because the good guy wasn't wrong for being good. He was just giving his heart to the wrong people. There's a moment where the good guy finally realized something important. He was never meant to be understood by everyone. His way of loving was never designed for people who thrive on attention, chaos, or option. It was meant for someone who values depth, consistency, and intention. And once that clicks, he stops feeling ashamed of who he is. He understands now that not everyone deserves access to his softness, that some people only know how to take, not receive. And that doesn't make him naive, it makes him discerning. He doesn't need to change his heart, he just needs to protect it better. The good guy learns how to walk away without guilt, not because he stopped caring, but because he started caring about himself too. He learns that choosing peace over potential isn't giving up, it's growth. That silence is sometimes the loudest form of self-respect, and slowly something shifts. He speaks clearer, stops apologizing for having standards. He no longer wonders if being a good guy is worth it. He knows it is, because even if the world tried to harden him, it didn't succeed. He stayed true, and that integrity, that's something no one can take from him. One day, someone will meet him where he is. They won't question his intention, they won't test his loyalty, they won't confuse kindness for weakness. They'll recognize it immediately, and they'll protect it the same way he does. Until then, the good guy keeps moving forward, not bitter, not broken, just wiser. And when that day comes, it won't feel dramatic. It won't feel like a movie moment where everything suddenly makes sense all at once. It'll feel calm, familiar, almost quiet, because the right person won't make the good guy question himself. They won't make him wonder if he's doing too much or not enough. They won't make him feel like he has to shrink his heart to be accepted. They'll meet him where he stands. They'll appreciate the way he listens, the way he shows up, the way he loves without keeping score. And for the first time, he won't feel like his kindness is a liability. It'll feel like a gift, something mutual, something protected, something finally returned. The good guy won't have to explain himself anymore. He won't have to prove that his intentions are real. He won't have to play it cool or pretend he doesn't care. He'll be allowed to be exactly who he is, and that'll be enough. Until then, the journey matters. Every disappointment taught him boundaries. Every heartbreak taught him discernment. Every moment of doubt sharpened his sense of self. He didn't lose those years being overlooked. He was being prepared to recognize real love when it shows up, prepared to walk away from anything that feels half-hearted, prepared to protect his heart without hardening. So if you're that good guy reading this, don't change. Don't let the world convince you that you need to become colder to survive. Stay solid, stay honest, stay kind. Just be selective with who gets that version of you. Because the world doesn't need fewer good guys. It needs people brave enough to stay good even when it's easier not to. What people never see is how much discipline it takes for the good guy to stay the way he is. Every bad experience tempts him to harden up. Every time he's overlooked, replaced, or taken for granted, there's a voice in his head telling him to stop caring so much, to move differently, to love less, to become like everyone else. But he doesn't. Not because it's easy, but because he knows who he is. He understands now that changing his character to fit a broken system would only cost him himself, and losing yourself just to be chosen by the wrong people is a price that's too high. So instead of becoming colder, he becomes more intentional. Instead of closing his heart, he narrows the door. He learns that being good doesn't mean being accessible to everyone. It means being principled. It means having the strength to say no, to walk away, to choose solitude over disrespect. And that kind of self-control, that's rare. The good guy also learns to forgive, not to excuse what hurt him, but to free himself from carrying resentment. He doesn't want bitterness living rent-free in his heart. He wants peace, growth, clarity, and forgiveness is part of that process. And one day, when someone finally meets him with the same depth, the same consistency, the same effort, he'll recognize it immediately. Not because it feels intense, but because it feels familiar. Until then, he keeps building, keeps healing, keeps choosing integrity over impulse, because the good guy isn't waiting to be saved. He's becoming someone worth meeting. In the end, the good guy doesn't get a dramatic apology from everyone who hurt him. He doesn't get closure from every situation that left scars. And he doesn't get a moment where the world suddenly admits it was wrong for overlooking him. What he gets is something quiet and far more powerful. He gets peace. Peace in knowing he never had to become someone else to survive. Peace in knowing his heart stayed intact even after everything. Peace in knowing he loved honestly in a world that often rewards the opposite. He looks back and realizes that every time he was ignored, every time he was treated like an option, every time he was underestimated, it wasn't a reflection of his root. It was a reflection of who couldn't meet him where he stood. And that understanding changes everything, because now he doesn't crave validation. He doesn't chase attention. He doesn't beg to be chosen. He knows who he is. And when love finally finds him, the kind that's mutual, intentional, and steady, it won't feel like winning. It'll feel like alignment, like finally being understood without having to explain yourself, like being valued without having to prove. Until then, the good guy keeps walking forward, not bitter, not resentful, not hard, just grounded. And that's the kind of strength no one can take. Unrequited love is a quiet kind of pain, the kind that doesn't make noise, It just sits with you. It's loving someone who laughs with you, but never looks at you the way you look at them. They're comfortable around you. They trust you. They tell you things. And every time they talk about someone else, you smile, while something inside you cracks just a little more. You learn how to swallow words before they escape, compliments you never say, feelings you never confess, because deep down you already know the answer, so you love them quietly. You notice everything about them, their habits, their moods, the small details nobody else pays attention to, knowing full well you'll never live in their memory the way they live in yours. Somehow you convince yourself it's okay, that being close to them, even like this, is better than being without them at all. You give without expecting, you care without being chosen, you love without being loved back, and that hurts in ways you can't explain, but unrequited love teaches you something too. It shows you how deep your heart really is, how much you're capable of feeling, even when nothing is returned. Just don't disappear inside someone who can't meet you where you are, because one day someone will, and they'll give back everything you once gave away in silence. The hardest part about unrequited love isn't just that they don't feel the same, it's that they're close enough to keep the hope alive. They don't reject you outright, they don't shut the door, they just exist in your life. They text you, they lean on you, they laugh with you, and every small moment feels like maybe you're not imagining it. So you hold on. You tell yourself you're being patient. That timing is the issue, that one day they'll see what you feel so clearly, but deep down, you know you're waiting for something they never promised. And that's why it's so hard to leave, because unrequited love doesn't feel like rejection. It feels like unfinished business. You don't walk away angry, you walk away confused. You wonder if you should have said more, if you should have been quieter, if you waited too long, or tried too hard, and instead of letting go, you stay emotionally tethered, not because you're weak, but because your heart hasn't been given a clean ending, so it keeps hoping, keeps replaying moments, keeps searching for signs that maybe you still matter to them in that way, and that hope is what keeps the pain alive. You begin to wonder why you're always the one feeling more, why you're always the one waiting, why love seems so easy for others but feels just out of reach for you. You start shrinking your needs, telling yourself you don't want much anyway, convincing yourself that loving quietly is enough, but it's not, because caring without being chosen slowly teaches your heart that it should settle for less. You catch yourself doing things just to stay close, being extra understanding, always available, always forgiving. Not because you're weak, but because you're afraid that asking for more will push them away completely. So you accept crumbs and call it connection, and the longer this goes on, the more invisible you start to feel, not just to them, but to yourself. You forget what it feels like to be desired, to be someone's first choice, to be loved out loud, and that's the quiet danger of unrequited love. It doesn't just hurt you, it slowly teaches you to disappear. There's a reason unrequited love is so hard to walk away from. Not just love, it's anticipation. You live in the space of almost chosen, almost wanted, almost enough. Your brain starts clinging to small moments. A long conversation, a shared laugh, a look that might mean something, and those moments keep you hooked, because when love isn't returned, your mind fills in the gaps with possibility. You imagine what could be instead of facing what is, and every time you think about letting go, you feel like you're giving up on a future that was never actually promised. So you stay hopeful, you stay available, you stay emotionally invested, not because it feels good, but because walking away feels like loss, even though nothing was ever yours. That's the trap. Unrequited love keeps you chasing closure from someone who doesn't know they're holding it, and the longer you stay, the harder it becomes to separate love from longing. You don't just miss them, you miss the version of yourself that believed it might work. At some point you feel it, the imbalance, you realize you're giving more than you're receiving, and then emotionally, mentally, quietly, you're investing energy into someone who isn't investing back. You plan around them, you think about them, you hold space for them, and they just live their life. That's when it starts to hurt differently. Not sharp pain, But exhaustion? You're tired of wondering, tired of hoping, tired of pretending you're okay with crumbs. You notice how much of yourself is tied up in someone who doesn't even know how deeply you care. And for the first time, you ask yourself a hard question. If nothing changes, then how long can I keep doing this? Because loving someone in silence means you never get reassurance, never get clarity, never get chosen, and slowly, it teaches your heart that effort doesn't lead to safety. That love means waiting, that closeness means sacrifice, and that's not fair to you. Love isn't supposed to drain you. It isn't supposed to make you feel invisible. It isn't supposed to cost you your sense of worth. And realizing that is the beginning of letting go, even if your heart isn't ready yet. Letting go doesn't feel empowering at first. It feels wrong. It feels like you're giving up on someone you care about, like you're betraying something that meant a lot to you, even if it was never returned. You start questioning yourself. Am I being selfish? Am I overreacting? Did I just keep loving them quietly like before? Because walking away doesn't just mean losing them. It means losing the hope you've been holding on to. And hope is hard to release. You've built routines around them, emotions around them, a future that only existed in your head but still felt real. So choosing yourself feels like cruelty at first, like you're the one causing the pain, but staying was hurting you too. Just slower, just quieter. And that's the part people don't talk about. Sometimes self-respect feels like grief. Sometimes growth feels like loss. Sometimes choosing yourself feels worse than continuing to wait. But guilt doesn't mean you're wrong. It just means you cared deeply. And caring deeply doesn't obligate you to keep hurting yourself in silence. After you finally choose yourself, something unexpected happens. It feels empty, not peaceful, not freeing, just quiet in a way that's uncomfortable. You're no longer waiting for their message, no longer replaying conversations, no longer building your day around the possibility of them. And at first, that absence hurts more than the waiting did, because unrequited love filled space. It gave your emotions somewhere to go. It gave your heart something to hold on to, even if it was hurting you. Though when it's gone, you don't immediately feel relief. You feel loss. You miss the closeness. You miss the routine. You even miss the hope, as painful as it was. And that makes you question your decision. You wonder if you left too early, if you should have tried harder, if loneliness is worse than longing. But this part matters, because this emptiness isn't failure, it's withdrawal. Your heart is unlearning a pattern, and unlearning always feels uncomfortable before it feels right. You didn't lose love, you made room for it, even if nothing has filled that space yet. One day after the emptiness settles, something shifts. Not suddenly, not dramatically, just quietly. You start noticing how much lighter you feel without carrying love alone. You realize how much energy you used to spend hoping, waiting, adjusting, shrinking, all for someone who never met you where you stood. And for the first time, you don't miss them. You miss the idea of being chosen. That's an important difference, because now you know what it feels like to give deeply, and you also know what it costs when nothing comes back. So when love shows up again one day, it feels different. It doesn't make you question yourself. It doesn't leave you guessing. It doesn't ask you to love in silence. It meets you halfway. You don't have to hide how much you care. You don't have to settle for almost. You don't have to convince yourself that crumbs are enough. And that's when you understand something fully. Unrequited love wasn't wasted. It taught you the depth of your heart. It proved you're capable of loving purely, selflessly, fully. But it was never meant to be your ending, because love isn't meant to be endured alone. It's meant to be shared. And one day, someone will choose you as openly as you choose them. No silence, no guessing, no imbalance, just love. I still remember the last message she ever sent me. Not because it was long, not because it explained everything, but because it didn't. It was simple, short, like it didn't carry the weight of everything that came before it, and that's what made it hit harder. Because how do you go from talking every day to one final message that feels like nothing? At first I kept rereading it, not because I didn't understand it, but because I felt like there had to be something more hidden in it, some deeper meaning, some explanation between the lines, something that would make it all make sense. But there wasn't. It said just enough to end things, and not enough to explain them. And that's what messes with you, because your mind keeps trying to fill in the gaps that they left empty. I kept thinking back to everything before that message, all the conversations, all the moments that felt real, all the things she said that made it seem like we were building something. And then I'd look at that last message again, and it didn't match. It didn't feel like it came from the same person. Because how do you go from consistency to something that feels so detached, so final, without feeling final at all? The hardest part wasn't even what she said, it was what she didn't say. No real explanation, no real accountability, no real closure, just something that closed the door without ever fully acknowledging what was behind it. And that leaves you stuck in a weird place, because you're not just dealing with an ending, you're dealing with questions that never got answers. For a while I wanted to reply, not to argue, not to convince her to stay, just to understand, to ask the questions that were sitting in my head. What changed? When did it change? Was any of it real? But I didn't, because deep down I knew something. If she wanted me to understand, she would have explained it the first time. And that's a hard truth to accept, because it means the silence after that message was intentional, not confusion, not hesitation, a decision. She said what she wanted to say, and everything she didn't say was also part of that choice. After that, the conversation just stopped. No follow-ups, no checking in, no "how are you?" Just silence. And silence hits different when you're used to hearing from someone every day. Because now it's not just quiet, it's absence. For a while I kept expecting another message, something more, something that would make it feel complete. But nothing came, and eventually I had to accept something I didn't want to. That last message was really the last one. And over time I stopped looking at it like something unfinished. I stopped expecting more, because sometimes closure doesn't come from another person. It comes from accepting what they already showed you, and what she showed me was enough, even if it wasn't explained. I still remember the last message she sent me. Not because of what it said, but because of what it meant. It was the end. Not loud, not dramatic, just final. And now I understand something I didn't then. The way someone ends things tells you everything you need to know about how they saw it. So I stopped waiting for another message, stopped looking for more words, because the last one was already saying everything it needed to. Just not in the way I wanted. Lust will ruin your life if you don't learn how to recognize it for what it really is. Not temptation, not desire, not even attraction. Lust is a signal. It's like a check engine light flashing on your dashboard, warning you that something deeper is wrong under the surface. And most people don't want to hear that. They'd rather numb it, feed it, distract themselves with it, instead of asking why it showed up in the first place. Because here's the truth. When lust starts controlling your thoughts, your habits, your attention, it usually means you're lacking something real in your life. Not sex, not validation, intimacy. And intimacy doesn't always mean romance. That's where a lot of people get it twisted. Intimacy can be connection. It can be purpose. It can be faith. It can be feeling seen by people who actually care about you. It can be having someone you can talk to honestly without pretending you're okay. When those things are missing, lust steps in as a cheap replacement. Gives you a temporary hit, a moment of feeling wanted, a moment of escape, but once that moment passes, you're left emptier than before. That's why lust never satisfies. It promises relief, but delivers restlessness. You indulge, and instead of feeling fulfilled, you feel more hollow, more disconnected, more frustrated with yourself. And then the cycle repeats, because you're not fixing the problem, you're feeding the symptom. The craving itself isn't the enemy, the lack of awareness is. Lust shows up when you're avoiding something, when you're lonely, when you're stressed, when you're disconnected from yourself. It's your mind trying to fill a void without doing the work to understand why that void exists in the first place. And the more you indulge it without reflection, the more it delays your healing. You tell yourself it's harmless, that it's normal, that everyone does it. But deep down, you know when something isn't sitting right with your spirit. You know when it's no longer about desire and more about escape. This isn't about shame, it's about honesty. Lust is an indicator, a warning sign. A moment where you need to pause and ask yourself, what am I really craving right now? Connection? Comfort? Meaning? Peace? Because until you figure that out, lust will keep pulling you further away from yourself instead of closer to who you're meant to be. Most people don't want to admit this part, but lust usually shows up when you're feeling empty, not when you're fulfilled, when your life feels aligned, when you're grounded, when you have purpose and connection. Lust doesn't scream as loud. It might knock, but it doesn't take over. It only takes control when there's space inside you that hasn't been filled with anything meaningful. That's why lust hits hardest late at night, when you're alone, when the noise dies down, and there's nothing left to distract you from your thoughts. That's when your mind starts looking for something, anything, to feel good for a moment, and lust offers that shortcut. No effort, no vulnerability, no risk of rejection, just instant stimulation. But shortcuts always come with a cost. The more you use lust as an escape, the harder it becomes to sit with yourself. You start avoiding silence, avoiding stillness, avoiding the questions you don't want to answer. You tell yourself you're just satisfying a desire, but really you're training your brain to seek relief instead of growth, comfort instead of clarity. And over time, that changes you. It dulls your motivation. It weakens your discipline. It distorts how you view people, turning them into objects instead of humans. It lowers your tolerance for real connection because real intimacy requires patience, presence, and effort. Things lust never asks of you. This is why people who live in lust often feel stuck, not because they're bad or weak, but because they're constantly numbing the very discomfort that could push them to grow. Pain becomes something to escape instead of something to understand, and healing gets postponed again and again. You have to learn to pause when the urge hits, not to fight it with shame, but to question it. Ask yourself what you're actually missing in that moment. Is it connection, purpose, rest, direction? Because the urge is information, and if you listen to it instead of obeying it, it can lead you to what actually needs attention in your life. Lust loses power the moment you become aware of it. Here's where it gets uncomfortable but important. Lust isn't just about what you want. It's about what you're avoiding. Most people don't struggle with lust because they're overly sexual. They struggle because they're disconnected from themselves, from their purpose, from real relationships, from meaning. When you don't feel fulfilled in your day-to-day life, your mind looks for stimulation, something intense enough to make you forget how empty things feel. Lust is powerful because it hijacks your attention. It pulls you out of the present moment and into fantasy. And fantasy is easier than reality. Fantasy doesn't ask you to change. Reality does. That's why lust becomes a habit, not because it feels good, but because it distracts you from feeling bad. It numbs loneliness, it masks insecurity, it gives you a false sense of control when everything else in your life feels uncertain. But every time you choose that escape, you reinforce the idea that you can't handle discomfort without running from it. And that slowly chips away at you. You start feeling weaker mentally, less disciplined, less confident. You promise yourself you'll stop, then you don't. And now it's not just lust anymore, it's guilt, shame, self-disappointment. You start questioning your self-control, your character, your ability to change, all because you never addressed the root issue in the first place. The problem isn't desire. Desire is human. The problem is unchanneled desire. Desire without direction turns into self-destruction. When your energy isn't going into building something meaningful, it leaks into things that drain you instead. This is why people who overcome lust don't just resist harder, they replace it, they build structure, they strengthen their spirit, they deepen their relationships, they find something worth committing to that gives them purpose beyond momentary pleasure. Lust thrives in isolation, in boredom, in lack of direction. But when your life has meaning, when your days are intentional, when your spirit feels aligned, lust doesn't have much room to grow. It doesn't disappear overnight, but it stops controlling you. Another reason lust has so much power is because it disguises itself as confidence. It makes you feel wanted, desired, in control. For a brief moment, it tricks you into thinking you're fulfilled. But once that moment fades, you're left with the same questions, the same restlessness, the same hollow feeling you were trying to escape in the first place. That's how you know it's not real fulfillment. Real fulfillment doesn't vanish the second the stimulation stops. Real fulfillment gives you peace afterward, not regret. Clarity, not confusion. Strength, not self-disgust. And over time, if you're not careful, lust can start shaping how you view yourself. You begin to associate your worth with how desired you feel instead of who you actually are. You start needing validation just to feel okay. And when that validation isn't there, the craving comes back stronger, not because you're weak, but because your identity is being built on something unstable. This is where self-awareness becomes everything. You have to catch yourself and ask, what am I really avoiding right now? Am I running from loneliness, from boredom, from the work I know I need to do on myself? Lust often shows up when you're avoiding growth, when you're putting off healing, when you're ignoring parts of your life that need attention. The uncomfortable truth is that growth requires sitting with discomfort, requires stillness, silence, discipline, and lust offers you an easy way out of that process. But every time you take that exit, you delay becoming the version of yourself you know you're capable of being. You don't have to be perfect. You're going to slip. You're going to struggle. That's part of being human. What matters is whether you're conscious of the pattern or blindly repeating it. Awareness alone starts breaking the cycle, because the goal isn't to eliminate desire. Desire is natural. The goal is to stop letting desire control you, to stop letting it dictate your habits, your focus, and your future. When you do that, you don't lose pleasure, you gain freedom. Here's where things start to shift if you're willing to be honest with yourself. Lust isn't just about what you want. It's about what you're avoiding becoming. Every time you give in without thinking, you're choosing comfort over growth. And that choice, repeated enough times, slowly shapes the direction of your life. You start delaying things you know you should be doing. Goals get pushed back. Discipline weakens. Motivation fades. Not all at once, but subtly. You tell yourself you'll lock in tomorrow, you'll change next week, you'll get serious later. But later keeps moving, and you stay stuck in the same patterns, wondering why nothing feels different. And the worst part? Lust makes you numb to it. It gives you just enough relief to tolerate a life you know you're not fully proud of. It lowers the urgency to change, because why face the discomfort of growth when you can distract yourself instead? This is why so many people feel lost, not because they lack potential, but because they keep trading long-term fulfillment for short-term relief. And relief is never the same as peace. Relief fades, peace stays. When you start addressing the real voids in your life, lust starts losing its grip naturally. When you build structure into your days, when you commit to something bigger than yourself, when you start respecting your time, your body, your mind, when you develop a relationship with God, purpose, or discipline, whatever grounds you, lust doesn't hit as hard, because now you have something to protect. You realize your energy is valuable, your attention is valuable, and not everything deserves access to you. You stop feeding impulses that don't align with the future you're trying to build, not out of fear, but out of respect for yourself. That's when lust stops feeling like a battle, it starts feeling like a signal. A reminder to check in with yourself, to ask, am I aligned right now? Or am I avoiding something I need to face? And every time you choose alignment over impulse, you get a little stronger, a little clearer, a little more in control. At this stage, you start realizing something important. Lust was never the root problem, it was the symptom. The real issue was disconnection. Disconnection from yourself, from purpose, from meaning, from the version of you that feels grounded and whole. Once you see that, the urge loses some of its mystery. It's no longer this uncontrollable force, it's just information. You begin to notice patterns. The urges come when you're tired, when you're bored, when you feel unaccomplished at the end of the day, when you avoided something you know you should have handled, and instead of judging yourself for it, you start listening. You ask, what am I missing right now? Rest, direction, fulfillment, human connection. This is where growth actually happens. When you suppress desire, but when you replace it. When you choose to build instead of escape. When you put energy into things that give back instead of drain you. Working on your body, your craft, your faith, your friendships. Things that leave you stronger afterward, not emptier. And the crazy part is, the more you do this, the quieter lust becomes. Not because it's gone, but because it's no longer needed to cope. You're not running from yourself anymore. You're becoming someone you respect. You start carrying yourself differently. Your confidence becomes real, not borrowed from temporary validation. You don't need constant stimulation to feel alive. You feel solid just being present, just being disciplined, just knowing you're moving in the right direction even when it's uncomfortable. That's when self-control stops feeling like restriction and starts feeling like freedom. Freedom from compulsions, freedom from regret, freedom from waking up feeling disappointed in yourself. You're no longer controlled by every urge that passes through your mind. You won't be perfect. Nobody is, but you'll be conscious. And consciousness changes everything, because once you're aware, you get to choose, and choosing growth over impulse again and again is how you reclaim your life. There's a moment where you finally understand that discipline isn't about denying yourself pleasure. It's about choosing a better one, a deeper one. The kind that doesn't disappear the second the screen goes dark or the urge passes, the kind that stays with you when you're alone with your thoughts and you can actually respect the person staring back at you. You start realizing how much time and energy you were leaking, hours, focus, mental clarity, all going towards something that never loved you back, never built you up, never moved your life forward. And once you see that clearly, it's hard to to unsee it. You begin protecting your mind the same way you'd protect your body. You stop feeding it things that weaken it. Now, this is where restraint becomes self-respect. You're no longer saying no because you're scared. You're saying no because you finally understand the cost of saying yes. You've felt the emptiness after. You've lived the fog. You've experienced how indulging too much slowly disconnects you from your ambition, your relationships, your purpose. And something else changes too. You start seeing people differently, not as objects, not as outlets, but as humans again, with depth, with emotion, with stories. Real connection stops feeling boring. It starts feeling rare, valuable, something worth protecting instead of rushing. That's when intimacy starts to return in healthier forms, real conversations, genuine friendships, moments of stillness that don't need to be filled, a sense of closeness with yourself that you didn't even realize you were missing. And once you taste that, lust loses its grip even more, because now you're building something, a life you don't need to escape from, a version of yourself you're proud of. When that happens, the urge doesn't disappear, but it no longer controls you. It passes like a thought, like a wave. At the end of the day, lust only has power when you don't understand it. When you finally see it for what it is, a signal, not a solution, it stops running your life. You stop treating it like something you must obey and start treating it like something you observe. And that shift changes everything. You realize you don't need to be perfect to be disciplined. You just need to be honest. Honest about what you're missing, honest about what you're avoiding, honest about who you want to become, because every urge is an invitation, not to indulge, but to check in. Once you start responding instead of reacting, you regain control. You stop letting momentary desire dictate long-term direction. You stop trading peace for pleasure. You stop delaying your growth for comfort. And slowly, your life begins to align with the values you claim to have. Lust didn't ruin you. Revealed the places where healing was needed, the moments where connection was missing, the areas of your life that needed structure, purpose, and depth. And once you start filling those spaces intentionally, lust no longer screams for attention. It fades into the background. You become more present, more focused, more grounded. You don't feel constantly pulled in 100 directions anymore. You know what matters, you know what doesn't, and you act accordingly. This isn't about becoming cold or denying desire. It's about mastering yourself, about building a life where your mind works for you, not against you, where your choices reflect your values, where you don't need escape because you're finally moving towards something real. And when you get there, you'll look back and realize something important. The urge was never the enemy. Ignoring the message was. Sometimes the question isn't, will I be loved? It's quieter than that. It's, is there something about me that makes love harder? Because when people keep leaving or hesitating or choosing someone else, you start internalizing it. You start wondering if maybe you're too intense, too emotional, too independent, too complicated, or maybe not enough of something, and no one ever says it directly. They just drift, they just lose interest, they just aren't ready, and you're left holding the pattern. So you sit there thinking, if I was easier to love, would they have stayed? Maybe you're not hard to love. Maybe you're just hard to manipulate, hard to breadcrumb, hard to keep around without effort, hard to confuse. And to the wrong people, that feels inconvenient. You ask questions, you want clarity. You don't pretend you're okay with half effort. That doesn't make you difficult, it makes you aware. But when you keep encountering people who aren't ready for depth, your standards start to feel like flaws. You start thinking, maybe if I needed less, maybe if I expected less, maybe if I was more chill, they would have stayed. But staying isn't the goal. Staying right is. And being easy to love often just means being easy to neglect. You're not hard to love, you're just not built for temporary. When rejection repeats itself, you stop seeing it as coincidence. You start seeing it as confirmation. Confirmation that maybe you're too much, too sensitive, too deep, too intense for people to handle long term. So you adjust, you soften your reactions, you downplay your needs, you act less invested than you actually are, because maybe if you seem lighter, less emotional, less attached, they won't leave. But here's what really happens. You slowly disconnect from yourself. You become quieter in relationships, less expressive, less honest about what you want. And when someone still walks away, it hurts even more, because now it feels like even the edited version of you wasn't enough. That's when the question gets louder. If even my smaller version isn't chosen, what does that say about me? But maybe it doesn't say anything about you. Maybe it says something about who you've been choosing. There's a difference between being hard to love and being hard to access. Hard to love sounds like a flaw, like you're difficult, complicated, too much work. Hard to access is different. It means not everyone gets the deepest parts of you. It means you don't open up instantly. It means your vulnerability isn't handed out casually. And that's not a weakness, that's discernment. You don't let just anyone in anymore. You don't overshare with people who haven't earned trust. You don't attach quickly just because there's chemistry. To someone who wants easy, that feels frustrating. To someone who wants depth, that feels rare. You're not hard to love, you're just not available for surface level connection. And the wrong people will always call that too much, but the right person, they'll call it intentional. Maybe the real issue was never that you're hard to love. Maybe you've been loving people who don't know how to love deeply. There's a difference. Some people like the idea of you, your attention, your softness, the way you show up for them. But when it's time to reciprocate, they struggle, not because you're asking for too much, but because they don't have that depth to give. And instead of admitting that, it's easier for them to label you. Too intense, too emotional, too serious. But wanting clarity isn't intense, wanting effort isn't emotional, wanting something real isn't serious, it's healthy. You're not hard to love, you're hard to half love, and that's where the tension comes from. Because people who operate casually feel pressure around someone who operates intentionally, but pressure isn't the same as incompatibility. It's just misalignment. When you're repeatedly misunderstood, you start questioning your depth. You start wondering if you feel too much, if you expect too much, if you interpret things too deeply. Because when people keep saying, it's not that serious, or you're overthinking, you begin to shrink your instincts, you second guess your reactions, you silence your intuition, you tell yourself to calm down even when something feels off. But here's the truth. Depth feels dramatic to people who live on the surface. Emotional awareness feels intense to people who avoid vulnerability. Your ability to feel deeply is not a flaw, it's a capacity. And just because someone doesn't meet you there doesn't mean you're too much. It just means they don't swim that far. You're not hard to love. You're just not built for shallow connections. And that's not something you should dilute. At some point, the question changes. It stops being, am I hard to love? And starts being, are they capable of loving me properly? That shift is everything, because instead of dissecting yourself, you start observing them. Can they communicate clearly? Can they handle vulnerability? Can they stay consistent when things get real? Or do they pull away the moment depth shows up? You stop assuming you're the problem. You start noticing patterns. Some people love casually, some people love conditionally. Some people love only when it's convenient. And if you love intentionally, those dynamics will always clash. You're not hard to love. You're just not compatible with people who aren't emotionally available. And once you realize that, you stop shrinking, you stop softening your standards, you stop apologizing for wanting clarity. Because love isn't supposed to feel like convincing someone, it's supposed to feel mutual. What if being hard to love actually means you're built for something rare? Rare love isn't rushed, it isn't casual, it isn't convenient, it's intentional. And intentional love requires emotional maturity, self-awareness, consistency. Not everyone has that. So when someone meets you and realizes they can't show up fully, it's easier for them to say you're too much than admit they're not ready. Rare things aren't accessible to everyone. Depth isn't for everyone. Loyalty isn't for everyone. Emotional honesty isn't for everyone. You're not hard to love, you're selective. And selective love filters out people who only wanted access, not responsibility. You don't need someone who loves lightly. You need someone who loves intentionally. And that kind of love is never going to come from everyone anyway. At some point, you stop fearing the label. You stop trying to prove you're easy. You stop trying to shrink your depth. You stop trying to soften your standards. If loving you requires clarity, effort, and consistency, then that's the requirement, not an apology. You don't dilute your emotions anymore. You don't pretend you're fine with surface level. You don't act detached just to seem low maintenance. You embrace it. Yes, you love deeply. Yes, you need communication. Yes, you value stability. That doesn't make you difficult. It makes you intentional. And when you stop treating your depth like a flaw, you stop attracting people who are intimidated by it, because confidence changes your energy. You're not asking, is this too much? Like, you're asking, can they meet me here? And if they can't, you don't internalize it. You understand that not everyone is equipped for the kind of love you offer, and that's okay. So, am I hard to love? No, I'm just not easy to half love. I don't do confusion. I don't thrive on inconsistency. I don't mistake potential for commitment anymore. If loving me requires effort, that's because I give effort. If loving me requires honesty, that's because I offer honesty. If loving me requires depth, that's because I refuse to stay shallow. I used to think I needed to soften, to be less emotional, less aware, less intense, but the right love won't ask me to shrink. It won't call my standards too much. It won't label my needs as dramatic. It won't feel overwhelmed by my depth. It will meet it. So no, I'm not hard to love. I'm just built for someone who loves intentionally, someone who doesn't hesitate, someone who doesn't compare, someone who doesn't need convincing. And until that shows up, I'm not a problem to fix. I'm just not available for less. And that's not being hard to love. That's knowing exactly how I deserve to be loved. This girl thinks I don't care, but the truth is, the mistakes I make replay in my head 24/7, like a loop I can't escape. People think guys just shrug things off, but honestly, we feel everything. We just don't show it the same. Every time I mess up, I don't just feel bad. I tear myself apart, not physically, but mentally. I call myself names, I convince myself I'm a failure, I beat myself down harder than anyone else ever could. I replay the situation over and over, thinking, why did you say that? Why did you act like that? You always ruin everything. And that voice, it's brutal. Like my brain refuses to let me move on. One mistake turns into a whole story about how I'm not good enough, how I'm never going to be enough. She thinks I don't care. She thinks my silence means I'm unbothered, or that I'm ignoring her feelings, or that I don't take the situation seriously. But the truth is, when I'm quiet, is because inside I'm drowning. I'm replaying every second, every look, every word, trying to figure out where I went wrong, trying to figure out how to fix it, trying to figure out why I can't just be better. I think a lot of guys go through this. We overthink everything. We analyze every angle, looking for the one thing we could have done differently. We don't move on fast. We just hide it better. And while I'm sitting there in my own head, she thinks I don't care at all. Like I just brushed it off. Like it meant nothing to me. But the truth is, it meant everything. I'm quiet because I care too much, because I'm afraid of making it worse, because I don't know how to explain the war going on in my mind. I know I messed up. I know I did some dumb stuff. I know I acted in ways I shouldn't have. I'm not oblivious, I'm not heartless, I feel every bit of it, but instead of saying what's going on, I sit there beating myself up, telling myself I should have known better, telling myself I shouldn't have made that mistake, telling myself she deserves someone better than me. But if there's one thing I've learned, it's this: you can't punish yourself into becoming better. You can't grow if you're too busy tearing yourself down. And no relationship survives if you only talk to yourself in your head instead of communicating with the person you hurt. Yeah, own your mistakes. Yeah, admit when you were wrong. But don't live in your head forever. Don't let one moment define who you think you are. If you messed up, say it. If you care, show it. If you want to do better, prove it. And if they believe you, great. If they don't, keep showing up. Your actions will speak long before your explanations do. But stop destroying yourself. Stop replaying the same scene like it decides your entire worth. You're allowed to mess up. You're allowed to learn. You're allowed to grow. That's what I'm trying to remind myself now. I'm trying to take the lesson without the self-hate. I'm trying to be a better version of myself. Not a perfect person, just a real one. And that's all any of us can do. Some nights, I stay up hugging my pillow pretending it's someone. Not because I'm dramatic, but because it gets lonely when no one chooses you. You start wondering if love just missed you. If maybe everyone else got picked and you were the one who got skipped over. I tell myself I'm fine being alone, and most days I am. But late at night, when the world is quiet, that's when the question comes back. Will love ever find me? Or am I just meant to imagine it? I think the hardest part is not the loneliness. It's feeling like you have so much love to give and nowhere to put it. No hands to hold. No one to come home to. Just you, your thoughts, and the same hope you keep tucking away every morning. And what scares me most is not being alone right now. It's the thought that maybe this is permanent. Being alone doesn't hurt the most. Being unchosen does. It's watching people find each other while you keep ending up by yourself. It's being told, your time will come so many times that it starts to feel like a placeholder sentence. You start questioning yourself. Am I too quiet? Too much? Not enough? You replay everything, trying to find the reason no one stayed. And late at night, when you're hugging a pillow, imagining it's someone who wants you back, those thoughts get louder. Not because you don't love yourself, but because you're tired of being the only one who does. The scary part is how slowly it affects your worth. You don't stop believing in love, you stop believing it wants you, and that's when loneliness becomes heavier than silence, because now it's not just about being alone, it's about wondering if something is wrong with you for being alone this long. This feeling doesn't mean you're unlovable, even though it really feels like it. It means you've been alone long enough for the silence to start telling stories. And silence is loud when it goes on too long. You start mistaking timing for rejection. You start turning waiting into a flaw. You start thinking love hasn't found you because you're missing something. But love doesn't work on fairness, and it doesn't run on schedules. Some people find it early. Some people find it after they've learned how to sit with themselves at night. And that doesn't make you behind. It makes you human. The fact that you still want love, still imagine it, still hope for it, even after feeling unchosen, that's not weakness. That's proof your heart didn't close. Imagining love at night doesn't make you desperate. It means you're human. You're not hugging a pillow because you're weak. You're doing it because your body remembers what closeness feels like, even when your life hasn't caught up yet. There's nothing wrong with wanting someone to come home to, with wishing there was a hand to reach for when the day finally goes quiet. The problem isn't that you imagine love, it's that you've been alone long enough to start believing wanting it is something you need to outgrow. But love isn't something you mature out of, it's something you wait for without turning against yourself in the meantime. You don't need to shame the part of you that still hopes at night. That part is just proof you haven't gone numb, and as long as you haven't gone numb, love hasn't missed you. Loneliness at night doesn't get to decide your future. Even when it feels endless, nights are heavy because they strip everything down. No distractions, no noise, just you and the question you try not to ask during the day. But night feelings aren't prophecies. They're just unmet needs speaking when everything else is quiet. Being alone right now doesn't mean you'll always be alone. And being unchosen so far doesn't mean you're unchoosable. It just means you haven't been met yet. There's a difference. You're not behind. You're not forgotten. You're not running out of time. You're just in the part of the story where love hasn't arrived, not the part where it never does. The hardest balance is holding hope without turning it into self-doubt, because when you hope for something for a long time, it can start to feel personal when it hasn't arrived yet. You tell yourself you're patient, but underneath that, there's a quiet fear that maybe hope is just another way of setting yourself up, so you try to numb it. You tell yourself you don't need love, you act like you're fine on your own, but hope doesn't disappear that way. It just goes quiet and waits for the night. The truth is, hope isn't the problem. Hope only hurts when you turn it inward and use it as proof that something is wrong with you. You're allowed to hope without questioning your worth. You're allowed to want love without it meaning you're lacking. Hope isn't weakness. It's just your heart still believing in a future you haven't reached yet. When love hasn't found you yet, it can make you feel invisible. You're moving through life unnoticed, unchosen, easy to pass by, but invisibility isn't the truth. It's just what loneliness whispers when it's tired of waiting. You don't get overlooked because you lack something. You get overlooked because connection isn't something you can force into timing. The right person doesn't miss you because they're better at noticing. They find you because they're looking for what you already are, and until then you're not invisible. You're just living in the space before recognition. That space feels quiet, it feels long, it feels unfair. But it isn't empty. It's shaping you into someone who will recognize real love when it finally arrives. Not because you're desperate for it, but because you're ready to receive it without disappearing into it. Love usually doesn't find you when you're proving you deserve it. It finds you when you stop performing and start existing. For a long time, I thought if I was good enough, patient enough, understanding enough, someone would finally see me. So I overgave, overthought, over-explained. But love doesn't arrive as a reward for endurance. It arrives when you're no longer shrinking to be easier to choose. The moment you stop asking, what do I need to fix? And start asking, what do I need to feel safe? Something shifts. You don't chase connection anymore, you allow it. And that doesn't make love come faster, and it makes it come healthier. Because the love that finds you then isn't choosing you, because you tried hard enough. It's choosing you because you're finally standing still as yourself. Waiting is hard because it's empty time. Not empty in life, but empty in connection. You're still living, still growing, still doing everything you're supposed to do, but there's no one to share the quiet with, and that's where loneliness sneaks in. The difference between waiting and loneliness is what you tell yourself while you're there. Loneliness says, nothing is happening because I'm not enough. Waiting says, something hasn't arrived yet, and that's not a reflection of my worth. Learning to sit in the waiting doesn't mean pretending you don't want love. It means refusing to let the absence of it turn into self-blame. You can want love deeply and still treat yourself gently in the meantime. You can feel the quiet without letting it convince you that this is all there will ever be, because waiting isn't where your story ends. It's just the space between who you've been and who you're about to meet. There's a moment when hope stops hurting, not because love arrived, but because you stop fighting yourself while waiting. You stop asking the question every night with fear in it. You still want love, you still imagine it, but it no longer feels like your life is on hold without it. Hope becomes something gentle, something you carry, not something that weighs you down. You realize love finding you was never about being chosen faster or proving you're worthy enough. It was about becoming someone who doesn't disappear while waiting to be seen. And when that shift happens, loneliness loosens its grip, not because you're no longer alone, but because you're no longer against yourself. That's when hope becomes safe again, and that's usually right before love finally knows where to find you. Some nights you still wish someone was there, and that doesn't mean the healing didn't work. It just means you're human. Missing connection isn't a setback. It's not proof you're regressing or going backward. It's just your heart remembering what it wants to share. The difference now is that the wanting doesn't hurt the same. It doesn't spiral. It doesn't turn into panic. It doesn't make you question your worth. It just exists. You can want love without feeling empty without it. You can imagine closeness without feeling broken when it's not there yet. And that's growth. Because you're no longer waiting with desperation. You're waiting with trust. Trust that love doesn't miss people who are becoming more themselves. It finds them when they're steady enough to receive it without disappearing. The love that finds you after this season feels different, not louder, not dramatic, safer. It doesn't make you question yourself. It doesn't make you wonder where you stand. It doesn't ask you to stay up at night holding space for uncertainty. It meets you where you are. And because you spent time alone, because you've learned how to sit with yourself, you don't cling to it, you appreciate it, you don't lose yourself in it because you know what it feels like to hold yourself first. That's why this waiting was never a punishment, it was preparation, not to make you stronger in a hard way, but steadier in a soft one. So if you're still alone right now, still asking if love will ever find you, it will. And when it does, you'll understand why it couldn't find you earlier. You weren't meant to be met when you were questioning your worth. You were meant to be met when you finally believed you were already enough. If you're asking that question right now, it doesn't mean you're behind. It means you're honest. You're honest about wanting connection, about feeling alone sometimes, about hoping there's more than just nights where you hug a pillow and imagine what could be. And that honesty matters. Love doesn't find people who gave up on it. It finds people who stayed open even when it hurt. People who learned how to be alone without becoming bitter, who waited without turning against themselves. So no, love didn't miss you. It just hasn't arrived yet. And when it does, it won't feel like something you chased or finally earned. It'll feel like something that recognizes you, like it knew where you were the whole time, and suddenly those nights won't feel so heavy anymore. Not because you forgot them, but because they led you right where you were meant to be. One day you won't ask the question anymore, not because love arrived overnight, but because you stopped measuring your life by what's missing. You'll still want connection, you'll still imagine it sometimes, but it won't feel heavy. You'll realize you didn't waste these nights. You were learning how to stay gentle in a quiet season, and that matters because the love that eventually finds you won't have to convince you that you're worth choosing. You'll already know. And when someone finally holds you, it won't feel like something you waited forever for. It'll feel like something that arrived right when you were ready to be seen, not as someone hoping to be chosen, but as someone whole. You really know you're in love when being without that person actually hurts. Not in a dramatic way, but in a quiet, lingering way. Like something feels off, like the day is missing a piece of itself. You feel this constant longing for them. You start counting the days, the hours, until you finally get to see them again. And no matter how many people you're around, no one else can spark the same emotions they bring out of you so effortlessly. And the crazy part is, you were never even this type of person. You liked being alone. You preferred your own space. You didn't really enjoy going out, making plans, or being around people for too long, but with them, it's different. For the first time, you actually want to go outside, you want to plan things, you want to explore, experience new places, do things you never imagined yourself doing. Being with them opens your eyes to parts of life you ignored before. They pull you out of your shell without forcing it. They make the world feel bigger instead of overwhelming. And when they're not around, it doesn't just feel lonely, it feels like you're missing a side of yourself. You're the calm one, the quiet one, the steady one. And she's the energetic one, the spontaneous one. The chaos that somehow fits perfectly into your peace. She fills a gap you didn't even realize was there, not because you were incomplete, but because she complements you in a way that feels natural, not forced. There's no games with her, no confusion, no guessing how she feels. Everything just feels, right. The chemistry isn't something you have to explain, it just exists. The time you used to protect for yourself is now the time you want to share with her, and that alone says everything. Because you never thought you'd let someone this close. You never thought you'd want to share your space, your routines, your silence. When you realize all of that, when someone becomes both your comfort and your excitement at the same time, that's when you know you're truly in love. Losing the person who was part of your daily routine is a different kind of pain. Not just losing them emotionally, but losing the version of life that existed with them in it. Every morning felt automatic. Wake up, grab your phone, text her good morning without even thinking about it. Sometimes you'd FaceTime right after, sometimes you'd meet her at school, walk together, laugh about nothing, complain about everything. It wasn't just love, it was habit, it was comfort, it was routine. And when someone is woven into your day like that, when they're built into the structure of your life for months, losing them doesn't just hurt, it disrupts everything. Especially when that person was your best friend. The one you called whenever something went wrong. The one you didn't hesitate to reach out to. The moment a problem entered your mind, you already knew who you were calling. Advice, reassurance, ideas, they were your first option every time, and now you still reach for your phone out of instinct, only to remember you can't call them anymore. You can't text them like before. You can't talk it out the way you used to. That connection is gone, and the silence feels heavier than any argument ever did. Or maybe it was your girlfriend. The person you did everything with. The movies, the random food runs, the plans you assumed would always include her. A new movie comes out, and for a split second your brain says, let's go see it together. Then reality hits. You broke up, you're blocked, she's no longer accessible, not online, not in real life, not in the way she used to be. And what nobody really talks about is how your body remembers them too. Your body got used to that text tone. Every notification used to feel like it might be her. Your heart would jump without you even realizing why. Now your phone buzzes, and it's just a bill reminder or some random notification that doesn't mean anything. And you sit there staring at your screen, realizing how much changed when she was in your life, and how empty the routine feels without her. Your days don't flow the same anymore. The structure is gone. The familiarity is gone. The person who anchored so many moments is no longer there to hold them together. And maybe the hardest part of all is accepting that you have to learn how to live life alone again. Not because you want to, but because the routine you built with them no longer exists. I don't know who needs to hear this right now, but you have to let them go. Not because you didn't care enough, not because what you felt wasn't real, but because holding on to something that's already gone is only hurting you more. They're not coming back, and I know that's a hard pill to swallow. It's one of those truths that sits heavy in your chest because part of you is still hoping, still replaying memories, still thinking maybe one day things will go back to how they were. But the truth is, if they wanted to come back, they would have. You wouldn't be sitting here questioning everything. You wouldn't be overanalyzing every small sign. You wouldn't be waiting for a text that never comes. Someone who wants to be in your life makes that clear. They don't leave you guessing, they don't disappear, and expect you to keep the door open forever. Letting go doesn't mean what you had didn't matter. It doesn't erase the memories, the connection, or the time you shared. It just means you're choosing to stop living in the past. You're choosing to stop punishing yourself by holding on to something that no longer exists. And that choice takes strength, even if it doesn't feel like it right now. I know part of you is scared. Scared that letting go means starting over. Scared that you won't feel that way about anyone else again. Scared that this was your one chance at something special. But that fear is lying to you. Life doesn't give you just one opportunity for love, connection, or happiness. It gives you many, but only if you make space for them. The sooner you let go, the sooner you heal. The sooner you stop checking their page, rereading old messages, and asking yourself what you did wrong, the sooner you start moving forward. And moving forward doesn't mean forgetting. It means accepting. It means allowing yourself to grow past this version of your life Good things are going to come again. Not the exact same things, not the same person, not the same situation, but something new, something healthier, something that won't leave you feeling confused, unchosen, or stuck. I promise you that. So let this be your reminder. You don't need to keep holding on to prove how much you cared. You've done enough. It's okay to release what no longer serves you. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is finally say goodbye, even when part of you still wishes they'd stay.